Chapter 944. An E. In another hall that was filled with a sacred and solemn aura, Eclipse, who had led Xing Hui to pay respects to the ancestor, and two other elders who similarly contained massive auras were looking at him with solemn expressions. From this day forth, you will be taught by us personally. We will do our best to show you the glory of the ancestor, said Elder Eclipse. Elder Eclipse spoke. His words made Xing Hui's expression turn solemn as though he was listening attentively. This reaction naturally left Elder Eclipse and the other two elders rather satisfied. They nodded and organized their words before saying, "Our lineage originates from an ancient system that has been passed down for more than 1 billion years. It originates from the mighty Lord of Scarlet Hell. The greatness of the Lord of Scarlet Hell can be traced back to an extremely long period of time. A long, long time ago, our ancestor of Scarlet Hell was born in an extremely powerful world. Furthermore, he thrived in that world, going through iron, bronze, silver, gold, platinum, astral, moonlight, sun, legend, and finally transforming into a mighty life form, a supreme existence known as a chaos life form. It's indeed a chaos life form, although Xing Hui had a guess, it was only now that it was confirmed. Chaotic life forms are one of the greatest life forms in the endless chaotic void. They are even greater than the creation life forms. Usually, only 1 out of 10 creation life forms is born as a chaotic life form. Chaotic life forms are born half a level higher than creation life forms. This shows how extraordinary our primogeniture is. Chaos life forms are born half a level higher than creation life forms. Xing Hui's heart stirred when he heard this. The Lord of Chaos was a chaos life form, while the Lord of Gods and Lord of Time were both creation life forms. It was no wonder that the Lord of Gods and Lord of Time were only able to resist the Lord of Chaos invasion after secretly joining forces, even though these three supreme existences were at the same level of cultivation. After the mighty Crimson Hell became a chaos life form, he broke away from the world that gave birth to him and led our bloodline to wander the vast primordial chaos. He allowed our bloodline to rapidly multiply and develop our own chaos verse. In just 1 billion years, the chaos verse that Crimson Hell created has become incomparably prosperous, with countless citizens. As for our bloodline, due to the legacy of our patriarch, we are one of the most powerful organizations in the universe. We reside high above the realm beyond heaven and enjoy endless glory." As Elder Eclipse spoke, his eyes were filled with longing for the glory days of his time. Unfortunately, on a certain day 3 million years ago, this glory ended. Although chaos life forms are massive entities in the endless chaos, they are not invincible. There are other creation and chaos life forms roaming the depths of the chaos, and on a certain day 3 million years ago, the great Crimson Hell Patriarch was attacked by another chaos life form. Master of Burning Blood. Xing Hui knew who the chaos life form that attacked the Infamily's Patriarch was. It's none other than the creator of this chaos verse, Master of Burning Blood. He relied on his indestructible characteristics to launch a despicable sneak attack on the mighty Patriarch, causing the mighty Patriarch to be heavily injured before he could lock onto his true location. By the time the Patriarch began his counterattack, his body was already greatly affected. He was unable to outlast Master of Burning Blood, who was also a chaos life form. In the end, he was defeated by the despicable Master of Burning Blood. Even our entire universe was devoured by him. He seemed to want to use the collision of the two chaos verses to capture the truth of indestructible and gain insight into the profundities of space-time. When Elder Eclipse said that, he sneered. Clearly, he failed. It's impossible for him to become greater by relying on strength obtained through forceful plundering. Xing Hui knew that Elder Eclipse was being sarcastic. After devouring Crimson Hell's universe, Master of Burning Blood had clearly grown stronger. Otherwise, it was impossible for him to become the strongest evil god outside of the immortal Tao civilization, second only to the Lords of Chaos, Lords of Time, and Lord of Gods. You have the mighty Patriarch's bloodline in you. Furthermore, your bloodline has already awakened. Your cultivation will definitely improve by leaps and bounds. However, if you are unable to find the correct cultivation direction, it might still be a waste of your talent. As Elder Eclipse spoke, he glanced at the other two elders. After the other two elders nodded heavily, they took out a jade booklet that contained a mystical aura. This is a cultivation technique our Lord Patriarch bestowed upon us. This cultivation technique not only points out the various stages of a chaos lifeform's metamorphosis, but it also points out the direction of a chaos lifeform's metamorphosis. It even mentions and infers Master of Burning Blood's indestructible characteristics. We wish to cultivate in this cultivation technique, but due to our failure to awaken the Patriarch's bloodline, we have been unable to make any progress. Now, we will hand it over to you. A cultivation technique at the level of Master of Burning Blood. Sing Hui's eyes lit up slightly. According to the cultivation system of the Lord of Chaos lineage, Master of Burning Blood was an existence equivalent to the fifth firmament Chaos realm. He was only second to the Lord of Chaos, Lord of Gods, and Lord of Time. Such a cultivation technique would be extremely useful in mending the fourth and fifth firmament of his great Tao disc. Sing Hui eagerly received it and studied it patiently. Although we are unable to cultivate in this cultivation technique, we have studied it extremely deeply. If there's anything you don't understand, you can ask us directly. Furthermore, in the following period of time, the three of us will constantly guard you. As your Tao protectors, we will assist and supervise your cultivation, said Elder Eclipse. Elder Eclipse said. With the careful guidance of three great divine powers, it fully demonstrated the importance the Yin family placed on him. Sing Hui nodded and expressed his sincere gratitude. Then, he quickly immersed his mind into the cultivation technique that the Lord of Scarlet Hell had passed down to his descendants. Oh, the cultivation of the first to third firmament chaos lifeforms is similar to the cultivation technique Master of Burning Blood gave me back then. It's about opening up an origins, constructing a virtual world, and then erupting from the origins. The key is the fourth firmament, the key to transforming into a chaos life form. Sing Hui's gaze landed on it. For a chaos life form cultivator to transform into a chaos life form, the difficulty was much higher than for a creation life form. Becoming a chaos life form was difficult, and with the rise of the creation life form lineage, the number of chaos life forms was constantly decreasing. According to the Lord of Scarlet Hell, in the endless chaos void, there were fewer and fewer newborn chaos lifeforms. As for the living chaos lifeforms, most of them were extremely powerful individuals. Instead, it was the creation lifeforms that had rapidly risen in recent times, replacing the chaos lifeform system. Today, the chaos lifeform lineage was on the brink of extinction. According to what's written here, becoming a creation life form is much easier than becoming a chaos life form. For a chaos life form to complete the transformation, the foundation needed is too strong. Back then, the Lord of Scarlet Hell was able to successfully transform into a chaos life form because he was suspected to have been enlightened by the ultimate eternal life form. Upon seeing this, Sing Hui was slightly taken aback. Eternal. He had actually seen the word eternal again in the cultivation technique the Lord of Scarlet Hell had given him. It represented the ultimate eternity of everything. The Lord of Scarlet Hell was fortunate enough to be enlightened by the eternal life form. No wonder. This is also the reason why the Lord of Scarlet Hell was able to break through. Wait a minute. According to what I know, chaos lifeforms should be able to infinitely split their bodies to increase their size. In other words, the Lord of Burning Blood had no need to devour the Lord of Scarlet Hell's chaotic universe. This wouldn't bring him any substantial benefits, but he still did it. Could it be, because he sensed that the Lord of Scarlet Hell had been enlightened by the eternal life form? This discovery made Sing Hui's breathing stop for a moment. However, he clearly didn't have the authority to command the ANS at the moment. Only when he grew up, recovered, and became a peak powerhouse who could suppress legends would he be able to take over all the secrets of the ANS, including this information related to the eternal life form. The Lord of Burning Blood should have sensed the abnormality of the Lord of Scarlet Hell, but he didn't know that the Lord of Scarlet Hell was once related to eternal life form. Otherwise, he wouldn't have gone to the immortal Tao civilization before digesting the Lord of Scarlet Hell and snatched the opportunity of eternal life form from there. This gives me an opportunity to take advantage of. Sing Hui was slightly agitated, but he quickly calmed down. His gaze then fell on the 4th level of the Chaos Realm and the 5th level of the Chaos Realm cultivation technique he derived. Time flew by as he comprehended. 100 years passed in a flash, and Xing Hui didn't disappoint as he raised his cultivation from the Radiant Moon rank to the Glorious Sun rank. At this rate, he had hopes of reaching the legendary rank in 1,000 years at most. However, Xing Hui, who had gained the complete trust of Elder Eclipse and the others, clearly didn't plan on wasting another 1,000 years to raise his cultivation to the legendary rank. 10 years after he broke through to the Glorious Sun rank 1 and stabilized his Glorious Sun rank 1, he summoned more than 10 elders of the ancestral land, including Elder Eclipse. He said bluntly, "Elders, I feel that my bloodline powers have been shackled by this universe. If I were to forcefully cultivate any further, the moment I break through, I will probably be detected by the ruler of this universe. Therefore, I wish to head to the Chaos Void. I've inherited the bloodline of the great primogenitor, so I can live freely in the Chaos Void. If I can really go there, I'm confident that I can cultivate to the critical point of a chaos life form within 10,000 years. 10,000 years to cultivate to the critical point of a chaos life form?" One of the elders frowned. Cultivators with the bloodline of a chaos life form can only cultivate better in the Chaos Void? I seem to have seen this information in some ancient records. Xing Hui nodded. This is the shackle of this universe, and with our ability, we don't have the ability to break through this universe's shackle. Therefore, going to the Chaos Void is the only way. Therefore, I earnestly request that all of you open a passage to the Chaos Void and lend me a hand, so that I can take this important step. Chapter 945. Open the passage to the Chaos Void. The elders seemed rather hesitant. One of them, who was clearly unwilling to open the passage, probed, "Will we really be discovered by the Searing Blood Overlord if we continue cultivating?" The Searing Blood Overlord hasn't made any major movements in recent years. It's said that he's gone to attack another Chaos Verse. Won't the chances of being discovered be lower if we do that? We can't take this gamble. An E is the descendant of our bloodline who has the greatest hope of restoring the glory of our founding ancestor and leading our bloodline back to glory. That's why we can't take this gamble. I suggest that we open the passage and send an E to the Chaos Verse. The will of the Blazing Blood Overlord has sealed off the Chaos Verse to an extremely powerful extent. If we really open the passage, our bloodline will definitely be exposed. When that happens, the will of the Chaos Verse will definitely sense our presence and attract the pursuit of the entire Eternal Shrine. All sorts of discussions rang out in the crowd. There were those who were worried, those who wanted to play it safe, and those who wanted to take the risk. The scene was a little chaotic. "Elders, please listen to me." Xing Hui immediately said, "Everyone, if we don't give it a try, I fear that our bloodline will always struggle at death's door under the attacks of the Searing Blood Overlord. Once he returns from his campaign in the Chaos Verse and refines the power left behind by our founding ancestor, we will no longer have any hope. The legacy of our founding ancestor will also be worn away by the passage of time and return to oblivion. This is our only hope." He added with certainty, "Moreover, I can assure you that once I reach the critical point of being a chaos life form, my strength will surpass the legendary realm. Unless the Searing Blood Overlord returns from his campaign in the Chaos Verse, no power will be able to stop our attacks. Even the Eternal Shrine, which represents the will of the Searing Blood Overlord, will be no exception. This universe that belongs to the Searing Blood Overlord will be completely occupied by us. Above the legendary realm? Unless the Searing Blood Overlord returns from his campaign, no power will be able to defeat us. When the time comes, can we think of a way to separate our founding ancestors' universe from the Searing Blood Overlord's Chaos Verse and break away from his rule?" When the elders heard Xing Hui's words, they gradually calmed down. After a while, Elder Eclipse, who had the best relationship with Xing Hui, asked, "Ani, can you really possess combat strength that surpasses legendaries in 10,000 years?" "I promise." Qing Su swore solemnly. "All right." Elder Eclipse waved his hand, "Then let's do it this way. We will open a pathway to the primal chaos space and let an E go there to train. Even though we will have to hide for the next 10,000 years, as long as we can survive this 10,000 years, our and family will end our days of hiding. We will once again stand at the pinnacle of glory as a universe master family. The other elders looked at each other and finally made a firm decision. Let's bet. I've had enough of these days of hiding. Even if our lineage is destroyed, there are still legacies of the great patriarchs in other primary planes. We can't be considered the culprit behind the extinction of the patriarch's lineage. Open a pathway to the primal chaos space. Let an E go there and unleash his bloodline power to his heart's content. Whether our Crimson Hell patriarch's lineage can rise will depend on this. The elders finally made a decision after some internal struggle. This scene immediately made Xing Hui heave a sigh of relief. Since the decision has been made, there's no time to lose. We will now open a pathway to the primal chaos space. In addition, elders, I'll have to trouble you to run to the primary worlds of the other lineages and inform them of the upcoming operation. If possible, do your best to help us and attract the attention of the Eternal Shrine. Let the Eternal Shrine's attack on us be slightly reduced so that we can last longer. Elder Eclipse said. I understand. I'll be in charge of the arrangements for the ordinary members of the family. Let them scatter and hide in every corner of the primary plane. Also, the elders made arrangements one by one in an orderly manner. As for Elder Eclipse, he stood up and said to Xing Hui, do you need to make some preparations and adjust your condition? The environment in the primal chaos space is different from the chaotic universe. Even if you possess the power of the patriarch's bloodline, you cannot let your guard down. I've already made all the preparations. Furthermore, my condition is unprecedentedly good. I'm just waiting to head to the primal chaos space. Elder Eclipse nodded when he saw this. Then, there's no time to lose. I'll bring you to the pathway. With that said, he sighed. In fact, the pathway to the primal chaos space is the final path of retreat for our Lord of Scarlet Hell lineage. We have a great divine artifact bestowed upon us by the Lord of Scarlet Hell, allowing us to survive in the primal chaos space. However, the powers in the primal chaos space are not something we can touch or grasp. When the time comes, due to our lack of understanding of the powers of the primal chaos space, the number of cultivators will dwindle until they are wiped out. That method is only to prolong our feeble existence. This is also the reason why we have never taken that step. Xing Hui nodded when he heard that. I know that opening the primal chaos space pathway is equivalent to severing our final path of retreat. However, Elder, don't worry. Our lineage will definitely not be forced into such a state. I believe you. Elder Eclipse looked at Xing Hui as his eyes shimmered. As the only person to awaken the Patriarch's bloodline in 3 million years, I believe that you will definitely be able to lead our Lord of Scarlet Hell lineage back to its peak. Of course, if you are able to break through that chasm and become a chaos creature on the same level as the Great Patriarch, our lineage will truly be free of worries. Yes. Furthermore, that day won't be too far away. Xing Hui said. Elder Eclipse was filled with anticipation for the future as he led Xing Hui straight to the end of the ancestral land. In less than half a day, they arrived at a mountain range that floated 1,000 meters high. The mountain range was only several dozen kilometers wide, and although it only seemed like it hovered 1,000 meters away, only when Qing Su actually set foot on the mountain range did he discover that it was a completely different space. It was just that this space was hidden extremely well, such that even he failed to discover it. On the mountain peak, there were 4 legendary life forms with auras in no way inferior to mighty divine powers presiding over it. When they saw Elder Eclipse arrive, they nodded at him while constantly sizing up Xing Hui. Clearly, they had already received the news that a passageway to the Chaos Verse would be opened. They would provide a good cultivation environment for this junior who had awakened the Patriarch's bloodline. As he still needed to make preparations for his family's retreat, Elder Eclipse didn't immediately open the passageway when he led Xing Hui here. Instead, he waited for a month. A month later, the the 4 legendary elders presiding over the area took action and gradually activated the passageway. Instantly, a rapidly spinning vortex gradually formed above the mountain range. Furthermore, it became deeper and deeper. As the vortex spun, one could hear rumbling sounds. It was as though an invisible force was tearing apart the universe will's seal on the chaos verse. It took an entire hour for the passageway to completely form. During this hour, Xinghui could vaguely sense that the dominion outside this world had undergone a complete upheaval. The universe will was enraged, but due to the ancestral land's world powers isolating it, no one could sense the changes in the outside world. An hour later, the passageway finally formed. An aura that had been absent for many years immediately surged out of the passageway. It was the fluctuation of Chaos Yuan Qi. Upon sensing the Chaos Yuan Qi, Xinghui took a deep breath. At that moment, he really felt like a dragon that had been trapped in the shallows for years and was about to return to the sea. Alright, An. Enter the passageway immediately. We cannot guarantee how long this passageway will last. If you sense that the path back has been sealed, it means that our lineage has been completely wiped out. If you wish to return, you can only return through the Chaos Passageway in another main plane. We will open that Chaos Passageway once every 10,000 years. Grasp this opportunity well. Do not disappoint us. Elder Eclipse said earnestly and earnestly. Elder, don't worry. I will definitely cultivate to the peak as quickly as possible. Then, I will return to this world and lead our Crimson Hell Patriarch's lineage to the peak. I will even kill Lord Burning Blood and rule this world. Xinghui agreed solemnly. Lord Searing Blood was still sealed in the Void Heaven Ring, so this Chaos Verse was almost like an undefended universe to him. If he could conquer it, he'd have the foundation to return to the immortal Dao civilization. If there came a day when he was unable to obtain the right for the immortal Dao civilization to survive in front of the 3 supreme existences, the Lord of Chaos, the Lord of Gods, and the Lord of Time, he could still think of a way to transfer the immortal Dao civilization's cultivators to this world and ensure their survival. Of course, even if the immortal Dao civilization left their world and entered this Chaos Verse, they would definitely be annihilated due to the different great Dao laws of the Chaos Verse. In other words, if it really came to that point, the immortal Dao civilization's heritage would undoubtedly come to an end. Even if the immortal Dao civilization's cultivators could survive, they would only be able to preserve their lives. As for continuing the immortal Dao civilization's fire seed, it was already wishful thinking. The 2 Chaos Verse Great Dao laws were different, so how could they ensure the continuation of the civilization? Go on. We await the moment you return as a king. Elder Eclipse waved his hand. Xinghui didn't waste any more time. He took a step forward and entered the deep and unfathomable vortex. The moment he stepped into the vortex's teleportation forces swept up Xinghui as he rapidly traversed the excavated passageway. He was unbelievably fast, dozens of times faster than when Xinghui flew from the Lord of Chaos Dominion to the Chaos Void when he was at his peak. Under such circumstances, in less than half a year, the feeling of being stuck in the vortex and not being able to separate day and night suddenly dissipated. The next moment, a vast field of vision mixed with surging primal chaos Yuan Qi appeared before his eyes. The Chaos Void, he had arrived. Chapter 946. I never thought that the chaotic void, which is feared by so many powerful beings, would feel so close to me. Xinghui sensed the turbulent chaotic Yuan Qi around him and felt a sense of comfort. It was as if all the cells and acupoints in his body were breathing freely, and he was almost addicted to it. Fortunately, he woke up from this relaxed state of mind after a while. The most important thing now was to recover the energy he had consumed to escape the pursuit of the universal will as soon as possible. When he thought of that, Qing Su did not waste any time. He rapidly absorbed the chaotic energy in the surroundings and sent it into his illusory world of immortals. Then, he used the illusory world of immortals to convert it into various powers of laws and recover his strength. Since the virtual immortal Tao civilization wasn't a true chaos verse, it naturally wouldn't recover as quickly as it did in the Lord of Chaos domain or the broken domain of the immortal Tao civilization, but it was still many times faster than it was in the sealed chaos verse of the Blazing Blood Cauldron. Xing Hui did his best to recover, and finally, in the 3466th year, he recovered to his peak state. After recovering to his peak state, he did not immediately return to the chaotic universe of the Burning Blood Lord. Although it was foreseeable that the ANS would be hunted down by the Eternal Shrine for a period of time after opening the passage to the outside of the chaotic void and exposing their identity as the descendants of the Lord of Scarlet Hell, with Xing Hui's current combat strength, even if he really returned to the chaotic universe, he would not be able to match the entire Eternal Shrine. In addition, he had previously told the ANS that it would take 10,000 years for them to wait for him. Now that only 3,400 years had passed, he believed that the ANS would have enough power to deal with the suppression of the Eternal Shrine. After all, the Yin family was backed by a remnant force of the chaotic universe. Although this force had been in decline for 3 million years, the foundation of a direct descendant of a chaotic being was definitely not something that the Eternal Shrine, which represented the Lord of the Burning Blood, could easily wipe out. As he thought that, Qing Su had already taken out a fragment of laws without any hesitation at all. Nether Glow Fragment. As he had refined a fragment of laws in the Eternal Divine Hall before, Qing Su had refined 9 types of laws now. The fragment of laws that belonged to the divine beast Yuing was the 10th type. Even with the excellent foundation he had obtained from the Fortune Jade, it still took him 280 years to refine it. Fortunately, due to the mystical nature of the creation divine Jade, they succeeded on their first try. They were not like the Dian Holy Sage, the Giant Dragon City Master, the White Emperor, and the Bamboo Shadow Sword Master, who faced the fate of failing to smelt the precepts. After refining the 10th law fragment, Xing Hui did not stop. After adapting to the new environment for a year, he immediately started refining the 11th law fragment, followed by the 12th. It took him more than 1,300 years to refine these 2 types of laws. Including the time he used to recover and refine the nether fluorescent fragment, it had been 5,000 years since he arrived in the primal chaos void. The 12 godly beasts' laws are finally complete. Next, I will use the virtual immortal Tao civilization as a world and use the power of the laws of the 12 godly beasts to trace back to the origin point plate and recreate the majestic scene of Pangu opening the sky. From there, I will turn the virtual immortal Tao civilization into a real primal chaos universe. A primal chaos universe that belongs to the immortal Tao civilization, or rather, the Eldritch world. Xing Hui muttered to himself. He understood that at this moment, he had reached the most crucial step in his cultivation journey. If he was willing, he would be able to trace back to the origin point plate and become Pangu. He would then be able to recreate Pangu opening the sky and rush to the 4th level of Primal Chaos Realm, becoming a real Primal Chaos being. By then, he might not be able to reach the level of the Master of Primal Chaos Realm, second only to the Eternal Ultimate Stage, or the Burning Blood Master, who was equivalent to the 5th level of Primal Chaos Realm. However, it would not be a problem for him to reach the level of an ordinary evil god or the Master of Red Hell, who could roam the Primal Chaos Void. However, Xing Hui thought about Pangu's final fate after he opened the sky. However, he hesitated for a moment. After Pangu opened the sky, he fell and became all things. That was why the Eldritch world and the brilliance of the immortal Tao civilization was born. Would he face the same fate if he tried to break through to the 4th level of Primal Chaos Realm and become a real Primal Chaos being? Compared to those Primal Chaos beings who have been stuck at the 3rd level for countless years, my foundation is still lacking. Moreover, the Fortune Jade is still missing a corner. This is a problem I cannot avoid. Even if I use the Fortune Jade as a foundation and gather the laws of the 12 divine beasts to trace back to the origin point plate like the 12 celestial fiends formation, the success rate of my metamorphosis is much higher than ordinary primal chaos beings. There are even images of time and space that prove that I will become a primal chaos being in the future, but the metamorphosis of a primal chaos being is too difficult. If I really want to make sure that nothing goes wrong, I should find the last piece of fortune jade as well. Xing Hui muttered to himself. He had to admit that he wasn't ready to break through to the 4th level of primal chaos realm. Be it in terms of foundation or mentality, he wasn't ready to break through to the 4th level. I'll think about it after I occupy the primal chaos universe of the Burning Blood Master and gain a deeper understanding of the 4th and 5th levels of primal chaos realm. The giant dragon city lord has already obtained information about the last piece of fortune jade. As long as I can find him and trade with him, I'll be able to obtain the last piece of fortune jade. Given my abilities, I'll naturally be able to get my hands on it. Even the black and white exalted lords, ranked first on the ultimate god ranking, won't be able to stop me. Xing Hui had a plan when he thought of this. He then turned his gaze to the passageway that the Yin family had opened to the primal chaos void. 5,000 years was twice as fast as the 10,000 years Xing Hui had mentioned earlier. As a result, the Yin family was still maintaining the passageway. In other words, the Yin family hadn't been defeated by the Eternal Shrine yet. It seems that the Yin family isn't simple at all, Xing Hui thought to himself. He didn't waste any more time. He took a step forward and followed the passageway to the main plane on the other side. The teleportation process was as long as ever. Half a year later, as the surrounding environment and laws became oppressive again, Xing Hui's figure appeared on the floating mountain range where he had left. This world, Xing Hui frowned. He hadn't felt it before he had recovered his cultivation base. Now that he was at his peak and was living in the primal chaos universe of the Burning Blood Master where the power of laws was severely sealed, he immediately felt as though he was shackled and shackled. Moreover, these shackles were incomparably vast, majestic, and unfathomable. Even though he was now much stronger than when he had been trapped in the Eternal Shrine, he still couldn't truly break these shackles. The power of laws. The power of the will of the universe. It seems that only by destroying the will of the universe can I break these shackles. Although he couldn't completely break these shackles, but Xing Hui's figure trembled as the illusory world of immortal Tao materialized behind him. As soon as the illusory world of immortal Tao materialized, the sealing force exerted by the entire primal chaos receded like the tide and was pushed aside by the world of immortal Tao. Waves and ripples formed where the two worlds collided. I can't break these shackles, but I can hold them off for now. Whoosh! At this moment, a figure suddenly appeared in the sky above the floating mountain range. The figure blinked when he saw Xing Hui standing at the front of the passageway, but then exclaimed in pleasant surprise, "Ani, it's you? You've returned from the chaos. How did it go? Did you completely unearth the power of the great primogenitor's bloodline?" Xing Hui looked at the figure who'd suddenly appeared. It was a legendary elder who oversaw the chaos passageway. He'd found it strange when he hadn't noticed anyone when he'd first appeared, but now that he'd suddenly appeared, he could vaguely guess what was going on. Is the situation very dangerous now? Yes. If it weren't for the other branches sending legends as reinforcements and the Shrine of Sacrificial Blood taking advantage of the situation, we probably wouldn't have been able to hold on 3,000 years ago. However, even with the reinforcements of the other branches and the interference of the Shrine of Sacrificial Blood, we still wouldn't have been able to hold on for long. If you don't return within 100 years, we plan to close the passageway and retreat. Xing Hui nodded when he heard this. What kind of faction is this Shrine of Sacrificial Blood? It's a faction that's vaguely hostile to the Eternal Shrine. You should know that although this chaotic universe was created by the Lord of Burning Blood, the Lord of Burning Blood had set up the laws of the universe so that even legendary creatures who'd reached the peak of their cultivation could only dream of touching the realm of chaos. In other words, the Lord of Burning Blood had cut off the path of ascension for legendary creatures. Under such circumstances, even though the entire universe belonged to the Lord of Burning Blood, there were still many legendary creatures who wanted to break through the shackles of the universe and reach the realm of chaos so that their lives could sublimate. Many similar legendary creatures united to form the Shrine of Sacrificial Blood. Elder Ingzhen continued, 5,000 years ago, there was a change in the Eternal Shrine. Someone actually pretended to be the Lord of Burning Blood and acted presumptuously in the Eternal Shrine. However, the Lord of Burning Blood did not appear. We guessed that the Lord of Burning Blood must have been severely injured when he went to invade another chaotic universe. This period of time might be the best time for us to break through the shackles of the universe and reach the realm of chaos. Therefore, we secretly encouraged the Shrine of Sacrificial Blood to take advantage of the opportunity to rebel against the Eternal Shrine. Xing Hui immediately understood the nature of the Shrine of Sacrificial Blood when he heard Elder Ingzhen's words. It was probably equivalent to the Great Development Gate in the territory of the Lord of Chaos. However, the Lord of Chaos was different from the Lord of Burning Blood. The Lord of Burning Blood had sealed his own world and cut off the path of cultivators to become chaos beings. However, the Lord of Chaos was too rich to care about the cultivators under his sect. In any case, even if the cultivators under his sect broke through to become chaos beings, they would not be a match for him. Have you reached the realm above the legendary realm? The Eternal Shrine should be at its weakest point in recent years. If you can really reach the realm above the legendary realm, you can rally all the legendary creatures to defeat the Eternal Shrine and even slay the will of the universe. You can break the shackles of the entire universe and liberate the entire universe. Chapter 947. Above Legendary? Xing Hui muttered to himself for a moment. He had now condensed 12 great Tao laws. Although he could not obtain the blessing of the 12 laws because this was not the domain of the Lord of Chaos, the refinement of the laws made the virtual immortal Tao civilization world more solid than before. It was so solid that he could rely on his own virtual immortal Tao civilization to break free from the restraints of the laws formed by the will of the universe for a short period of time, and thus unleash his own combat strength. While such an outburst would not allow him to fight against 1,000 legendary creatures, it would be easy for him to fight against 100. As long as there were other legendary champions assisting him, he would be able to break through the encirclement of thousands of legendary champions when he was trapped in the Eternal Shrine and was hunted down by them. With such combat strength by his side, it would not be an exaggeration to say that he was above legendary. Though I've yet to become a being of chaos, I've reached the critical point of breaking through and could be considered above legendary. As long as there aren't too many ordinary legendary champions, I could easily defeat dozens or even hundreds of them. Xing Hui said. Dozens or hundreds? Easily defeated. Elder Ingzhen was pleasantly surprised when he heard Xing Hui's words. At present, the greatest threat to us is the High Priest of the Eternal Shrine, but he could barely deal with the encirclement of 30 or 40 legendary champions and even had to evade their attacks. You could easily defeat dozens or hundreds of legendary champions. You must be above legendary. From now on, as long as the Lord of Burning Blood does not appear, you can be called the number one person in the universe. Under your leadership, we will certainly be able to overthrow the Eternal Shrine's rule, and even break through the will of the universe's seal on the universe in the future and usher in a new era of great cultivation. Xing Hui nodded slightly. At the same time, he also glanced at the Lord of Burning Blood that he had suppressed in the Void Heaven Ring. The Lord of Burning Blood had been extremely peaceful recently. He had basically not moved at all. If it were not for the fact that Qing Su could sense that his presence had not changed at all, he basically would have believed that this terrifying evil god who could even devour and kill true chaotic beings had already died. Withdrawing his gaze from the Void Heaven Ring, Xing Hui said directly, "Our family's ancestral land should still be in danger. Take me there." All right. Elder Ingzhen complied and quickly flew out of this floating mountain range with Xing Hui. As his figure shuttled through the mountain range, he flew out of the underground space again and came directly to the ancestral land in the periphery. This ancestral land had been managed by the Yin clan for countless years, and it could be said to be impregnable. Countless talismans, formations, and restrictions filled every corner of the ancestral land. Moreover, although it appeared to be in the main plane, it was actually a part of Crimson Hell's Chaos Verse that had perished all those years ago. It was just that Crimson Hell's Chaos Verse had been devoured by Crimson Blood Lord, so it couldn't become independent and was still affected by the various laws of Crimson Blood Lord's Chaos Verse. That's an E? I'm not mistaken. That's really an E. And he actually came back. Didn't he say that it would take 10,000 years? Only 5,000 years have passed, right? Half of the time has passed. And he? Is he the young man who awakened the primogenitor's bloodline? As Elder Ingjun brought Xing Hui to the ancestral land, a series of exclamations sounded from the crowd. Elder Eclipse, who was fighting on the front lines, immediately left the battlefield and flew over. He asked with anticipation, "Ani, you came back so quickly. Did you finish your cultivation in advance?" "I was worried that our clan would be in danger, so I rushed back immediately after finishing my cultivation." Xing Hui nodded at Elder Eclipse. At the same time, several old men with legendary cultivation had also rushed over. Although these few legendary experts were in the ancestral land, helping Elder Eclipse and the rest fend off the Eternal Temple's attacks, their attire and combat style were clearly different from the Yin clan's bloodline. Elder Eclipse hurriedly introduced them to Xing Hui. "And these are the other bloodlines of our Crimson Hell's primogenitor. They are Xue Chuan, Yu Gu, Sang Yi. Thank you for your help." Xing Hui nodded at the few people in front of him. At the same time, he saw the sizing up and suspicion in their eyes. In order to successfully grasp the power left behind by the Lord of Crimson Hell, he didn't waste any time. He directly said, "The current situation should be rather dangerous, right? How many experts has the Eternal Temple sent to attack us? I'll first appear and repel those invaders." "Your cultivation level has broken through to the legendary realm?" Elder Eclipse didn't answer but asked immediately. "That's right." "That's great." Elder Eclipse was immediately pleasantly surprised. "Above the legendary realm? I've never heard of anything above the legendary realm. Even the Grand Priest is merely at the legendary realm. But he possesses the creation divine artifact bestowed to him by the Burning Blood King, and that's why he's able to exert strength that far surpasses us." Xue Chuan, who had come to provide assistance, frowned as though he didn't believe it. "Just because I haven't seen it doesn't mean it doesn't exist." Xing Hui had a smile on his face as he turned to Elder Eclipse. "Time is of the essence. Elder, it's best you tell me about the enemy's situation." Elder Eclipse obviously trusted Qing Su very much. When he heard Qing Su's question, he replied in a hurry, "Due to the other factions helping us share the pressure, coupled with the rise of the Sacrificial Blood Divine Hall, and the fact that some of the organizations that were originally under the Eternal Shrine chose to stand by and do nothing, the Eternal Shrine can only mobilize around 1,500 legends right now. Out of these 1,500, they've left over 300 to guard the Eternal Shrine in case something happens to it. Half of the remaining 1,200 have gone to suppress the Sacrificial Blood Divine Hall, while another 300 have been drawn over by the other factions. Only around 300 legends have truly come to attack our ancestral land. After all these years of fighting, 24 of the 300 legends have died. They only have around 280 to 290 legends left now." 280 to 290. Xing Hui was somewhat surprised. "So few. Few." By the side, Netherbone was immediately displeased when he heard Xing Hui's words. "Those are legendary experts. Even if the entire universe's beyonder powers are restricted to an extreme, it's still easy for a legendary expert to suppress a main plane. In fact, the total number of legendary experts in the entire chaotic universe doesn't exceed 4,000. Now, with nearly 1/10 of the legendary experts surrounding us, you actually think that's few?" Xing Hui glanced at Netherbone and smiled faintly without replying. He knew that the best response to these legendary experts was to intimidate them with his powerful strength. "If there are less than 300 left, then, we can counterattack. Everyone, follow me. Let's defeat them." After Xing Hui said that, he didn't give Elder Eclipse and company any time to react. He transformed into a stream of light and charged out. "Counterattack." Elder Eclipse was slightly taken aback as he hurriedly shouted, "No. We only have about 100 legendary experts on our side. How can we withstand the encirclement of nearly 300 legendary experts? Even with the help of the ancestral land's runes, restrictions, and arrays, we can barely hold on. Before Elder Eclipse could finish, he was interrupted by Elder Ingzhen. Elder, since an E is so confident, let's follow him. After all, an E is now an expert above the legendary realm. Before the real battle, no one knows what level is above the legendary realm. After saying that, he said to Xue Chuan, Netherbone, Sang Yi, and company, when the time comes, you can also take action at your own discretion. If an E can't do anything to the 300 legendary experts outside, you can defend the ancestral land. If the strength an E displays is strong enough to defeat the 300 legendary experts, then I implore everyone to take action with us when the time comes. We'll be the last force to crush the other party and completely defeat these eternal shrine cultivators or even kill them. Of course. We're definitely not people who can't tell right from wrong. If an E really displays such ability, we'll definitely assist him with all our strength to destroy the eternal shrine and even the shackles that the universe will has placed on us. Xue Chuan expressed his stance without hesitation. Alright, let's follow. Elder Ingzhen said as he quickly flew out. At this moment, outside the ancestral land, layers of flowing light were like shields that constantly cut the space outside. Every time the legendary elders of the Yin family were in danger, this layer of flowing light would wrap them into another void, allowing them to leave the battlefield and give them a chance to catch their breath. At the same time, if any of the Eternal Shrine's legendary experts were alone, they would be wrapped up by this space and transported to a battle formation formed by 3 to 5 legendary experts. They would then use the power of these legendary experts to besiege and kill them. It was by relying on this strange space-dividing power that the Yin family could hold on until now and even kill 24 experts from the Eternal Shrine. Xing Hui flew at full speed, as fast as a flowing light. In the blink of an eye, he had arrived at this void. His gaze paused for a moment in the void, and soon landed on a battle formation formed by more than 30 legendary powerhouses. He immediately said to Elder Wu Yan, who was presiding over the ancestral lands formation, "Send me to that area." Huh? You're back. How's your cultivation? Now isn't the time to talk about this. Send me there. Xing Hui said. There. No. There are a total of 34 legendary powerhouses there, and among them, there are 4 advanced legendary powerhouses and 1 peak legendary powerhouse. Their combat power is comparable to 60 legendary powerhouses. Even the High Priest of the Eternal Shrine would be in danger if you were to be surrounded by them. If I were to send you there, you would be courting death. They have the combat strength of 60 legendary experts. Since I've completed my cultivation, you naturally understand my current level. Send me there. Send him there. Furthermore, we will keep an eye on him. If there's any danger, we will immediately teleport in to rescue him. Elder Wu Yan was still hesitating when a voice sounded. It was Elder Eclipse, Elder Ingzhen, and company who had followed closely behind. Elder Wu Yan swept her gaze across Elder Eclipse and company. The weakest of the elders was a high-level legendary. If they were to take action in time, they would be able to rescue Xing Hui even if he was in danger. With this in mind, she nodded and said to Xing Hui, "Then be careful. I'll send you in now." Chapter 948. Swoosh. Space flickered. Xing Hui's figure directly appeared among the 34 legendary life forms that belonged to the Eternal Shrine. Legendary powerhouses contained powerful life forces that interfered with the operation of the surrounding space. Therefore, when several legendary powerhouses gathered together, the Yin family's array was unable to separate them individually. As a result, the Yin family could only use space to trap the 34 legendary powerhouses, causing them to be trapped and unable to escape for a short period of time. However, the trapped legendary powerhouses naturally wouldn't sit still and wait for death. They attacked the space that had been cut out with all their might in a futile attempt to break it. These spaces were equivalent to the fragments of the chaotic universe left behind by the Lord of Scarlet Hell. Breaking one of the Yin family's foundations was a little less. Now, the Yin family didn't have much space left. The moment all the space shattered, the Yin family would be unable to withstand the Eternal Shrine's attack and be completely defeated. The lineup of 34 legendary powerhouses was so powerful that unless all the legendary powerhouses of the Yin family swarmed together, there was no way to defeat them. In fact, even if all the legendary powerhouses of the Yin family were teleported over, as long as the 34 legendary powerhouses took a defensive stance, the other legendary powerhouses without any checks and balances would naturally do their best to break through the space to reinforce them. When that time came, it would be unknown who would kill who. Under such circumstances, when Xing Hui was teleported into the space that had been cut out alone, the 34 legendary powerhouses of the Eternal Shrine were stunned. One of them even blinked, thinking that he had seen wrongly. 1. These traitors actually only teleported one person over. A member of the Eternal Shrine with a high-level legendary cultivation base said with a tone full of doubt. He even thought that there was a trap in the other party's actions. However, when the leader of the legendary powerhouses determined that there was only one person who had been teleported over, he ordered without hesitation, "Kill him." The other legendary beings who had received the order did not say anything else, charging towards the green ruins in an instant. When this scene landed in the eyes of Elder Eclipse, Elder Blood Chuan, Elder Wuyan, and the others who were at the periphery, their hearts were completely in their mouths. Eclipse, keep an eye on them. Once an E can't hold on, teleport us over immediately. Be careful of the interference of the life magnetic fields of those legendary powerhouses during battle. I understand, Elder Eclipse nodded his head forcefully as he spoke. However, before he could finish his words, what happened next caused his voice to come to an abrupt halt. In that isolated space, Xing Hui met the 34 legendary champions who were lunging at him head-on. As the vague silhouette of an immortal civilization flashed over his body, the shackles imposed upon him by the entire universe seemed to be broken at once. The power of a legendary life form was no longer an upper limit on him, and with a single move, he condensed a beam of sword light, carrying a radiance that illuminated the void as it shot towards the fastest legendary champion. Before the legendary champion who had manifested his powerful body could react, the beam of sword light had already brushed past him. It was like using a soldering iron to melt snow. That legendary life form was annihilated on the spot, not leaving behind any aura as he was wiped out by Xing Hui's sword light. After slaying a legendary champion, Xing Hui's movements did not slow down at all. With a clench of his fist, the sword light that brushed past him shattered on the spot, exploding into countless tiny sword chis. As the sword chis surged, the 20-odd legendary powerhouses who were close behind were shot to death by the sword chis. Some of them tried their best to counterattack, dispersing the sword chis, but even more had their bodies pierced by the sword chis, forming holes in their powerful legendary bodies. Upon seeing this scene, the leader of the legendary powerhouses was alarmed and furious. He seemed to have unleashed some secret technique as he instantly appeared in front of Xing Hui. With a roar, his legendary body manifested, and a thunderous blow that carried a force that caused the entire space to tremble violently struck at Xing Hui. Die! It's useless. Qing Su struck out with both hands. He did not even draw the Scarlet Abyss sword. Instead, he used the projection of the world of immortals to break free from the restraints of the will of the universe, erupting with a flash that was even sharper than the strike of the legendary expert. The sword light whistled, even causing the space that had been cut to rapidly tear apart, forming fissures that spread and collided with the thunderous blow of the legendary powerhouse. At once, endless brilliance and sword chis exploded at the same time, forming streaks of sword chis that did not lose out to the full-powered blow of a legendary powerhouse. They shot in all directions, once again piercing a large number of holes in the bodies of several legendary powerhouses who were closest to them. The most unlucky one even had his head blown apart by the sword chis, his spirit destroyed, and he died on the spot. As for the pinnacle legendary powerhouse who had collided head-on with Xing Hui's sword chis, he screamed miserably as his entire arm and half of his body was directly minced into a bloody pulp by the sword chis. His eyes were filled with horror. You! How can your strength be so tyrannical? Xing Hui did not bother to answer such meaningless questions. He clenched his hands, and streaks of sword cheese emerged from his body. They were the 49 great Tao precepts that formed the immortal civilization. At present, these 49 great Tao precepts formed 49 streaks of sword cheese, and under the guidance of the coalescence great Tao, they formed a sword array that instantly surrounded the remaining legendary powerhouses and continuously minced them. After all, with the illusory world of immortal civilization holding up the restraints of the universe, his battle with these people was basically the same as cheating. These people's cultivation could only reach the legendary level at most. Even if they relied on some special techniques and secret techniques that allowed them to unleash power that was far beyond the legendary level, their strength was still limited to a certain range. It was like a game character with an upper limit of 1,000 points of attack. Even if you had more powerful skills that could double your lethality, your basic attributes were limited, and at best, you could only burst out with a damage of 2,000 points. However, Xing Hui seemed to have broken the rules of this world. He was playing a private version of the game character, and the upper limit of the attack of the private version easily exceeded 10,000 points. Even if Xing Hui could only use normal attacks and could not use any skills, the damage would still be at least 10,000 points. Under such circumstances, how could the two be compared? The 49 streaks of sword cheese were wantonly in this void, constantly slicing those legendary powerhouses. Even though these legendary powerhouses were all elites of the Eternal Shrine, and there were several high-level legendary powerhouses and one at the peak of the legendary level, they still could not escape from the numerous streaks of sword cheese. Moreover, unlike the outside, due to the space being sealed, those legendary powerhouses who were constantly being slaughtered could not escape even if they wanted to. They could almost only watch themselves and their friends around them being annihilated by the 49 streaks of sword cheese. Despair and screams instantly filled the entire space. This is the power above the legendary level. Elder Eclipse, who was presiding over the formation in the ancestral land, could not help but widen his eyes when he saw Xing Hui single-handedly killing the 34 legendary powerhouses of the Eternal Shrine. Oh my god! Among those 34 legendary powerhouses, there are several high-level legendary powerhouses and one at the peak of the legendary level. But under such circumstances, they can't even fight back. Is the realm above the legendary level so powerful? An E. Is this the power that an E was given after awakening the bloodline of the ancestor? With such power, why would our Scarlet Hell still need to hide from the Eternal Shrine's pursuit? Legendary powerhouses? So what if they are legendary powerhouses? Under Lord An Yi's leadership, we can kill as many as they come. The other legendary powerhouses who had witnessed this shocking scene with their own eyes were also excited. Xuechuan, Yugu, Zhang Yi, and the other legendary powerhouses looked at each other and saw the shame in each other's eyes. But the next moment, they seemed to have thought of something and said at the same time, this is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Since Lord An Yi is so powerful, it won't be difficult for him to keep all these lackeys of the Eternal Shrine here. What we need to do next is to do our best to delay them, and at the same time create a good opportunity for Lord An Yi to kill all these bastards who have slaughtered countless people of our Scarlet Hell for thousands of years. Yes. Create an opportunity for Lord An Yi to stop them. This is our ancestral land, our battlefield. Once they enter, they can forget about escaping. As long as we can buy time for Lord An Yi, these 280 legendary powerhouses will be wiped out in one fell swoop. The Eternal Shrine will be greatly weakened by such a tragic loss, which will pave the way for us to defeat the Eternal Shrine in the future. Quick, summon all the resting legendary elders. It's time for us to fight back. Now, it's time for these lackeys of the Eternal Shrine to pay the price for what they have done all these years. The legendary powerhouses who came to their senses shouted excitedly. Without needing anyone to make arrangements, they quickly rushed into the severed space in groups of 3 to 5 to prevent the trapped legendary powerhouses of the Eternal Shrine from breaking through the severed space and escaping from the ancestral land. In fact, many legendary powerhouses of the Eternal Shrine were shocked when they saw that a squadron led by a top legendary powerhouse on their side had been wiped out by Xing Hui alone. The Scarlet Hell has such a powerhouse. Retreat. Let's retreat. No wonder the Scarlet Hell has been so active all these years. Such an unforeseen event has happened. Immediately report this matter to the High Priest. Damn it, break the space. Let's meet up and retreat at full speed. Amidst the shouts, Tsing Hui had already killed all the 34 legendary powerhouses in the severed space. After killing the 34 legendary powerhouses, Tsing Hui waved at Elder Eclipse without hesitation. After receiving Tsing Hui's signal, Elder Eclipse carefully sized up Tsing Hui. Seeing that he didn't seem to be injured or exhausted, he immediately activated the array of the ancestral land again and sent him into another space where 29 legendary powerhouses of the Eternal Shrine were. Immediately, a one-sided massacre began again. The battle lasted for an entire day. Thanks to the unique environment of the ancestral grounds, apart from 13 of the 289 legendary experts of the Eternal Temple who used some treasures to rapidly shatter the spatial seal and escape from the range of the formations of the ancestral grounds, the remaining 276 were all slain without any exception. Out of the 276 legendary experts, a total of 261 had died to Qing Su's hands. In other words, the number of enemies killed by the Lord of Scarlet Hell's legendary powerhouses was not more than 15, which was less than 1/17 of Tsing Hui's. Chapter 949. The Eternal Shrine's encirclement of the Yin family that had lasted for thousands of years had finally come to an end. Furthermore, it ended at the cost of nearly 300 legendary experts of the Eternal Shrine being wiped out. After the last remaining legendary powerhouse of the Eternal Shrine was killed, all the members of the Yin family, be it the legendary level elders or those who were only in the moonlight and glorious sun levels, could not help but cheer. All kinds of shouts filled the ancestral land of the Yin family, as if that was the only way to vent their emotions that had been suppressed by the Eternal Shrine all these years. A complete victory. Nearly 300 legendary experts were defeated by an E alone. There's hope. In this battle, we see the hope of completely defeating the Eternal Shrine and reviving our Scarlet Hell lineage. Everyone in the ancestral land was celebrating, cheering for this unprecedented victory. However, Tsing Hui's expression was normal. He was now at the critical point of breaking through to become a true chaotic life form. The almighty experts that were almost invincible in his eyes in the past were nothing at this time. If he was not worried about the probability of failure, he could have already broken through to the fourth tier of the chaotic realm and become a top existence on the same level as the evil god. It seems that my performance did not disappoint the elders. Tsing Hui's figure flashed and came to the side of Elder Eclipse, Xue Chuan, Yu Gu, and the others. He said with a faint smile. Not only did you not disappoint us, but you also gave us a pleasant surprise. Elder Eclipse was full of smiles. Xue Chuan also stepped forward and bowed slightly. Sorry, Your Excellency and Yi. We offended you with our words just now. Please forgive us. It's fine. You did not understand the state I was in at that time, so I can understand why you said that. Tsing Hui responded. At the same time, he said, now, everyone should have no more questions about us overthrowing the Eternal Shrine, and even defeating the will of the universe and breaking the shackles on us, right? No. Xue Chuan said. We will summon all the legendary elders of the other lineages and gather all our forces together. Then, we will follow Your Excellency and Yi to counterattack the Eternal Shrine. I believe that under Your Excellency and Yi's leadership, we will definitely achieve the final victory in this counterattack. I will also actively contact the Sacrificial Blood Temple. Eclipse Elder said, I will spread the news of our battle and let the people of Sacrificial Blood Temple understand the strength of our Scarlet Hell lineage. I believe that for the sake of victory, they will definitely rush over and form an alliance with us. With the help of the people of Sacrificial Blood Temple, our chances of defeating the Eternal Shrine will increase. Tsing Hui nodded. Everyone, there's no time to lose. I think it's best to take care of these matters as soon as possible. After all, apart from the Eternal Shrine and the universe accident, we still have another greatest enemy, and that is the Lord of Searing Blood, who rules over the entire Chaos Verse. Although we speculate that the Lord of Searing Blood should have died in the invasion of that unknown chaos verse, no one can be sure that this information is true until we see his corpse. Therefore, the sooner we carry out our plan, the better. It's best if we break the shackles imposed on this chaos verse by the will of the universe and have one of us break through to become a true chaos life form. Only then will we have a chance to survive in front of the Lord of Searing Blood. Eclipse Elder and the others nodded solemnly when they heard Sing Hui's words. The Lord of Searing Blood was their greatest enemy. I understand. We'll do it right away. Your Excellency Yi, the upcoming battle will depend on you. Therefore, you should go and rest. Leave the trivial matters to us. That's right, Your Excellency Yi. You are our anchor. As long as you can maintain your peak state and attack at all times, I believe that we will never lose. Everyone shouted in agreement. Then I'll have to trouble you. Sing Hui did not stand on ceremony. He could not be bothered to spend time on trivial matters. Otherwise, he would not have wasted time gaining the Yin family's trust. After Shui Chuan, Nether Bone, and the others left, and even Eclipse Elder left his instructions, Sing Hui spoke again. He called out to Elder Ingzhen, who presided over the ancestral land. Elder, we have inherited the lineage of the mighty Scarlet Hell Patriarch. As a chaos life form, I wonder if the mighty Scarlet Hell Patriarch left behind any precious treasures for our descendants before his slumber that would allow us to deal with the Lord of Searing Blood one day? Did he leave behind any precious treasures before his slumber? Elder Ingzhen frowned before shaking his head regretfully. If there were such treasures, we would have used them long ago. We wouldn't have waited until now. Nothing. Sing Hui sighed inwardly. According to the Yin family, the Lord of Scarlet Hell had once been fortunate enough to see a true eternal life form. Furthermore, he had received guidance from that eternal life form. As for eternal. Eternal was the ultimate realm that the Lord of Chaos, Master of Gods, and Master of Time pursued all their lives. It was the end of the cultivation path, the final destination of all supreme life forms. Even the slightest thing left behind by such a supreme existence would be of great help to any practitioner who had not reached the eternal realm. This kind of help would even come in handy when he fought against the Lord of Chaos, the Lord of Time, and the Lord of Gods in the future. However, unfortunately, just as Sing Hui expressed his regret, Elder Ingzhen seemed to have thought of something. He suddenly said, "It seems like he might have left something behind, huh?" A glint flashed in Sing Hui's eyes as he hurriedly asked, "What did he leave behind?" "A divine artifact. A supreme treasure with the power of prophecy." "Prophecy." "Yes. Prophecy." Elder Ingzhen nodded heavily. That supreme treasure is an existence similar to a crystal ball. From time to time, a river of stars would flow through it. Every time the river of stars flowed, some strange information and images would burst out from it. We can't analyze these images. It's only when something happens in reality one day that the information and images will suddenly become clear and be grasped by us. What's recorded inside is actually that major event that happened, information and images that can't be analyzed. Sing Hui suddenly felt that this statement was very familiar. Although that treasure has the power of prophecy, it's always a hindsight. It's only when something happens that the image and information can be analyzed by us. It was like this when the Bu family of the Scarlet Hell's primogenitor line was destroyed. It was like this when the supreme legend Simon, who had the greatest hope of breaking the shackles, fell. It was the same even in the Battle of Herrick. Although many families have spent a lot of energy to study this supreme treasure and decipher its mysteries, there hasn't been any progress in 3 million years. Today, apart from a few elders who are still studying that treasure, most people have already completely given up on it. Can you take me to see that treasure? Of course. Elder Ingzhen smiled. Now, you're about to lead our Scarlet Hell's many branch families to counterattack the Eternal Shrine. There's an 80 to 90% chance that you'll be elected as the commander of our Scarlet Hell's branch. We'll do our best to satisfy any of your requests as long as they don't infringe on the interests of our Scarlet Hell's branch. Sing Hui nodded slightly. The Yin family and the others' attitude didn't waste his previous efforts on them. Under Ingzhen's lead, Xinghui quickly arrived at a courtyard in the depths of the ancestral land. An elder originally lived in this courtyard, studying the crystal ball-like treasure. However, the ancestral land had encountered a crisis not long ago, so as an elder, he naturally had to go and kill the enemy. As a result, there were only a few Star Radiance stage juniors in the courtyard. Ingzhen said something to those juniors and directly came to a room in the side courtyard. Very soon, he took out the crystal ball-like treasure from inside. "It's this item," Elder Ingzhen said. Xinghui looked at the crystal ball in front of him. Very soon, a hint of surprise appeared on his face. Although the crystal ball was right in front of him, he could see it and even touch it, but Xinghui didn't sense it as if it didn't exist. If it weren't for the fact that Xinghui used the changes in the air flow and the slight changes caused by the compression of space, he wouldn't have been able to tell that it was a sphere. After a while, Xinghui seemed to have thought of something. He suddenly said, "Eternity substance." "That's right, eternity substance." Elder Ingzhen nodded. This crystal ball is no different from an ordinary crystal ball when it doesn't reveal the Milky Way. When we first discovered this item, if it weren't for the fact that it was eternity substance, I'm afraid that we would have already abandoned it. In that case, we naturally wouldn't have been able to detect the mystical nature of this treasure. At this point, he paused slightly and laughed bitterly. Of course, it's true that this item is mystical, but whether it can be considered a treasure or not is still unknown. Xinghui stared at the crystal ball for a while and asked, "Approximately how long does it take for the Milky Way image to flash?" "This is impossible to determine. Sometimes it flashes several times a day, and sometimes it doesn't even flash for several years. The elders have studied it for several million years, but they haven't found any pattern." "There's no pattern." Xinghui held the crystal ball that was about the size of a soccer ball in his hands and carefully sized it up. After a while, he asked again, "Can you give this item to me?" Elder Ingzhen hesitated for a moment, but he quickly agreed. "This item is currently being studied by the elders. Moreover, I believe that after so many years without any results, they should be about to give up. Since you need it, you can directly take it. When the time comes, I will properly discuss it with the elders. I believe that they will be able to understand." "Many thanks." Xinghui nodded. Although he currently didn't understand what was so mystical about this item, its eternity substance alone could be considered precious. It had to be known that eternity substance was more precious than the material of a good fortune divine tool. Even if he ultimately couldn't figure out the use of this treasure, he could at most let the Scarlet Abyss Sword swallow and refine it. It would still be of great benefit to the Scarlet Abyss Sword's evolution. Chapter 950. 3 days passed by quickly. After 3 days of rest, the people of the Yin family had not only recovered their strength, but they also passed the news to the other branches of the Lord of Scarlet Hell. They even formed an alliance with the Shrine of Sacrificial Blood. The three forces agreed to attack the Eternal Shrine from 3 directions at the same time. They would use 100 years to remove all the branches of the Eternal Shrine that were built in the various main planes. After 100 years, they would meet at the periphery of the Eternal Shrine and launch the final attack on the Eternal Shrine. During this operation, there would be people who would pay attention to the dispatch of the members of the Eternal Shrine. Once any of the 3 forces were about to face a threat, Xinghui would rush over to reinforce them, causing the people of the Eternal Shrine to go for wool and come home shorn. After the plan was set, the people of the Yin family did not delay and took the lead to launch a counterattack against the shrine in this plane. As the Eternal Shrine branch in this plane had already learned of the defeat at the front line, there were only a few defeated soldiers left in the palace. Xinghui did not need to take action personally. Taking advantage of this time, Xinghui quickly went to the country where immortal Emperor Songhai was reincarnated. It had been 5,000 years. He estimated that immortal Emperor Songhai should have awakened his memory. With the foundation that immortal Emperor Songhai had laid, it would not be a problem for him to quickly reach the Starlight rank or even the Moonlight rank after awakening his memory. Although the lifespan of the cultivators in this world was relatively short, it was not difficult for a starlight rank to live for 10 to 20,000 years. As for the moonlight rank and glorious sun rank, they could live longer. 5,000 years was not an unacceptable number. It should be this position. Xing Hui traveled according to his memory and soon arrived at a vast continent. However, when he arrived at this continent, he frowned. In this position, he did not notice any decent forces. In other words, he did not notice any forces that had a starlight rank powerhouse. After pondering for a while, Xing Hui scanned the area with his divine telekinesis. Soon, his gaze landed on a cultivator whose life force was at the beginner platinum level. With a shuttle, he arrived at the center of the palace where the platinum level cultivator was. Xing Hui's arrival naturally drew a series of shouts from the guards outside. But before they could speak, Xing Hui had already unleashed his might as a legendary tier being. Instantly, the silver tier guards who were about to open their mouths and shout at Xing Hui spat out blood and fell to the ground. Even the platinum tier champion who was listening to his subordinate's report could not help but unleash his aura. In the next second, his aura was completely suppressed, and the chair he was sitting on was shattered into pieces as he collapsed to the ground. A legendary master. Swish! In a flash, Xing Hui appeared beside the platinum ranker and concealed his aura. I have a question for you. Facing a legendary tier being, the platinum tier middle-aged man did not care about embarrassing himself in front of his subordinates. He lowered his head and quickly answered respectfully, "My lord, if you have anything you need to know, please feel free to ask. I will definitely tell you everything I know. I remember that this territory used to be a huge empire 5,000 years ago. There were even a few starlight rank powerhouses in the empire. Where is the empire now?" "This empire?" The middle-aged man was slightly startled and quickly answered, "My lord, are you talking about the ancient kingdom that has been around for 140,000 years, the Sata Empire?" The Sata Empire had already left this realm 4,800 years ago and went to other realms. Left? Why did they leave? This is because of the war between the Great Eternal Shrine and the hidden top force, the Yin family. As the middle-aged man spoke, he stole a glance at Xing Hui. He could not tell if Xing Hui represented the Yin family or the Eternal Shrine, but he still said carefully and respectfully, "The Eternal Shrine is the ruler of all realms, but there are also dozens of legendary tier powerhouses hidden in the Yin family. When a battle between legendary tier beings breaks out, even if the will of the universe prevents the supernatural laws from appearing, it could still destroy the entire realm. The Sata Empire is only tens of millions of kilometers away from the main battlefield, which is extremely close to legendary tier beings. Even if the matter has nothing to do with them, the Sata Empire has to make a choice and move to avoid being affected by the shockwaves of the battle. So this is the reason." Xing Hui was a little surprised. A battle between legendary tier beings was indeed devastating for the small Sata Empire. Under the circumstances where the battlefield was only tens of millions of kilometers away from their empire, the Sata Empire would face destruction if anything went wrong. Under such circumstances, it was completely reasonable for them to choose to move. In fact, it's not just the Sata Empire. All the top forces in the entire realm that have the ability to travel between realms have left this realm. Currently, other than the Eternal Shrine and the Yin family, it would be difficult to find a few astral tier powerhouses in the entire realm. Where did the Sata Empire move to? Xing Hui asked. I don't know. Information from outside the realm is not something I can access. After hearing this, Xing Hui did not make things difficult for the platinum rank middle-aged man. His figure flashed, and he left the territory. At the same time, he took out a crystal talisman given to him by the Yin family elders. This crystal talisman was similar in nature to the communication jade amulet, but its effect was more powerful. Not to mention being able to send messages within a single plane. Even if two people holding the talisman were separated by dozens of planes, the talisman would be able to receive messages quickly. Elder Eclipse, do you know where the Sata Empire has moved to? The Sata Empire? That small empire with only a dozen astral tier and one moonlight tier overseeing it? I didn't pay much attention to it, but if Elder and E needs to know, you should be able to find out soon. Then I'll have to trouble Elder Eclipse. I want to know their whereabouts. Ha, Elder and E is too polite. Please wait a moment. Elder Eclipse said as he sent a message to ask the other legendary powerhouses. Without making Xing Hui wait long, Elder Eclipse soon contacted Xing Hui again. Found it. The Sata Empire has moved to the Maple Realm. It's about 6 realms away from our realm. Hee hee. Compared to the strength of their empire, it's considered very far. Maple Realm? Elder, please send me the realm map. I'll give you the realm map now. By the way, are you going to the Maple Realm? Is something the matter? Do you need me to send someone to assist you? It's nothing, just a small matter. It'll be done soon. Alright, you have to be careful. As news of this battle spreads, the Eternal Temple will definitely think of ways to target you. Don't fall into their trap. I understand. However, it'll take at least 3 to 5 years for the news to spread and for the Eternal Temple to react. I'll be back from the Maple Realm in 3 to 5 years. Ha, I'm just reminding you. Just be careful. If the Eternal Temple really mobilizes a large number of legendary powerhouses, we'll be the first to notice and inform you. Xing Hui nodded and ended the communication with Elder Eclipse. Then, he tore through the planar barrier and headed for the Maple Realm. The chaotic universe of the Burning Blood Lord was different from the territory of the Lord of Chaos. The planes of the Burning Blood Lord's chaotic universe were very close to each other. Some planes even overlapped. Because of the close distance, there were naturally many connections. Even if someone ruled a plane, it would be impossible to completely cut off the connection between that plane and the outside world. This was because one simply didn't know when their plane would come into contact with other planes and create a new plane channel. Xing Hui shuttled through these planes. As a powerhouse above the legendary realm, he tore through the planar barrier and returned to the plane at a very fast speed. It took him less than half a year to arrive at the Maple Realm. The Maple Realm was a large plane that was a dozen times larger than the one the Yin family was in. Its area could be considered powerful among the many primary planes in the chaotic universe. In the history of this plane, one powerhouse after another ascended to a higher plane and became a legendary life form was born. Even now, there were still many forces in this plane that had legendary powerhouses behind them. It was just that these legendary powerhouses lived in the higher planes most of the time and did not easily show themselves. The legend rank powerhouses weren't present, but there were quite a few starlight and moonlight rank cultivators living in this plane. The oldest families had even specially dispatched glorious sun rank powerhouses to take charge of a certain area. Their deterrence was minimal, so as to ensure their rule over the Maplewood Plain. Xing Hui tore through the planar barrier and appeared at the periphery of a city belonging to an unknown force in the Maple Realm. With a sweep of his divine sense, he quickly locked onto the most powerful starlight rank cultivator in the city. This city is not small. There are several cities within 100,000 kilometers surrounding it like stars surrounding the moon. It should be a major city, and there are starlight rank powerhouses overseeing it. I should be able to get a lot of information out of it. Xing Hui murmured. Buzz buzz. Almost at the same time he locked onto the starlight rank cultivator, an alarm seemed to ring in the city. Then, a light barrier gradually formed, as if to envelop the entire city. Troublesome. Xing Hui took a step forward, and like a destructive meteor falling from the sky, he instantly crashed into the energy barrier that rose above the city. This barrier that could even block a moonlight rank powerhouse instantly collapsed under his impact, exploding into streams of light. Violent explosions occurred in several places in the city at the same time. Clearly, Xing Hui's collision was too fierce, and even the areas responsible for supporting the barrier were destroyed due to the energy shock. After crashing into the city, Xing Hui's figure flashed and arrived at the city lord's mansion. Like before, he released his legendary aura and immediately caused many guards to fall to the ground. Who is the city lord? I have something to ask you. This lowly one is the city lord of this city. Greetings, my lord. I did not know that you were coming and did not welcome you. Please forgive me. Soon, a middle-aged man in luxurious clothes ran out from the city lord's mansion and saluted with a fearful expression on his face. I want to ask for directions. How do I get to the Sada Empire? Sada Empire? The man in luxurious clothes was startled. This lowly one doesn't seem to have heard of this empire, Sing Hui frowned. This empire should belong to a foreign empire. It should have arrived more than 4,000 years ago. A foreign empire. More than 4,000 years ago, the man in luxurious clothes immediately thought hard. Instead, an old man with platinum rank cultivation beside him whispered, "My lord, if it's a foreign force from 4,000 years ago, it should be the overlord 3 billion kilometers to the south. Grand Duke Sada was promoted 1,000 years ago. It's said that this Grand Duke Sada came from another plane when he was conferred the title of Marquis. Due to the chaos in their plane, even his empire was destroyed. He had no choice but to bring the royal family to the Maple Plain and seek refuge with the White Knight Empire." White Knight Empire? Grand Duke Sada, are you sure? Can I ask this lord about the strength of the Sada Empire? If his strength matches up. The old man was still discussing with the man in luxurious clothes. Sing Hui, who had heard their conversation clearly, could already conclude that this Sada Empire must be the country where immortal Emperor Tsunghai was from. Without wasting any more time, he flew towards the south where the White Knight Empire was located. Chapter 951. The White Knight Empire was one of the top forces in the Maplewood Plain that had a legendary powerhouse as their backer. Although the legendary powerhouse had left the Maplewood Plain and lived in the higher plane, he still provided a lot of convenience for his descendants, allowing them to produce Starlight rank, Moonlight rank, and even Glorious Sun rank powerhouses. At present, in the entire White Knight Empire, there were more than a dozen Glorious Sun rank powerhouses in the royal family. In addition, there were hundreds of Moonlight rank princes and Grand Dukes in various places. The White Knight Empire's power was like the sun in the sky. Except for a few other forces with legendary powerhouses as their backers, they could do whatever they wanted in the Maplewood Plain. The empire's prosperity naturally brought about a vast territory. In addition, the Maplewood continent itself was huge, so the empire's area reached an astonishing hundreds of billions of square kilometers. As a Grand Duke-level force under the White Knight Empire, the Sada Empire was also enfeoffed with a large area. The area it was enfeoffed was even larger than the territory occupied by the Sada Empire in the past. However, for a foreigner from the Sada Empire to be able to receive such a generous reward, it was not because of the Moonlight rank retired emperor of the Sada Empire. Instead, it was because of the chosen prince, Saya, who had risen to power in the past few thousand years. Sing Hui was sitting in a tavern in a city in the Sada Duchy. His divine sense had already covered the entire city. By constantly listening to the conversations of these people, he quickly came up with a plan. The most outstanding person in the Sada royal family in the past few thousand years is Prince Saya, and this Prince Saya is just over 5,000 years old. Since his birth 5,000 years ago, he has shown an incomparable talent for cultivation. Under the nurturing of the royal family's resources, he has broken through to the platinum rank in just 100 years. Breaking through to the platinum rank in 100 years did not mean that Prince Saya's talent was above his, but the difference brought about by his identity. He was born in a side branch of the An family, and the family could not provide him with decent resources at all. On the other hand, Prince Saya was said to be from the Empress's bloodline. He had been respected since young and had been carefully nurtured by the royal family. It was because of this that he could break through to the platinum rank in such a short time. As for the future, Prince Saya broke through to the astral rank and met a princess of the White Knight Empire. The two fell in love, and when Prince Saya broke through to the Moonlight rank, the White Knight Empire's royal family married the princess to him without hesitation, and conferred him the title of Grand Duke of Sada. The entire story was smooth and perfect. But, it's been 5,000 years. It can't be that it hasn't awakened yet, right? Immortal Emperor Songhai, the current Grand Duke Sada actually married the princess of the White Knight imperial family and even had a child. Xing Hui felt a little strange after digesting the information. Although Immortal Emperor Songhai was weaker than him, he should have regained his memories after 1,000 years at most. He met Princess Bai Lin of the White Knight imperial family 1,000 years later. If he had regained his memories then, he should have known that he would leave this universe one day. So, why did he marry the princess of the White Knight imperial family and have children with her? Could it be, was it a mistake? Thinking of this, Xing Hui looked towards the residence of the current Grand Duke of Sada, who was suspected to be Immortal Emperor Songhai, Duke Saya. Since he couldn't find out if Duke Saya was Immortal Emperor Songhai, then he might as well pay him a visit. Thinking of this, Xing Hui traversed tens of thousands of kilometers and arrived at the capital of Sada Duchy. Using his divine telekinesis, he quickly sensed the aura of the two moonlight rank powerhouses in the capital. However, when he sensed Duke Saya, who was suspected to be Immortal Emperor Songhai, Xing Hui didn't sense any obvious aura of Immortal Emperor Songhai. Could it really be a mistake? Muttering to himself, Xing Hui silently made his way to Duke Saya's residence. The residence was heavily guarded. Other than Duke Saya, who was a moonlight rank powerhouse, there were also a dozen starlight rank powerhouses. As for gold and platinum rank guards, there were thousands of them. However, these defenses were nothing in front of Xing Hui. He silently appeared outside a room. At this moment, Duke Saya, who looked to be in his 30s or 40s, was sitting calmly in the room. In front of him, there was a charming young woman who wasn't even in her 30s. She was playing a piano-like instrument. Moving notes constantly flowed from the instrument, making people feel relaxed and happy. From time to time, their gazes would meet. Their gazes were filled with tenderness and sweetness. Xing Hui's gaze landed on Duke Saya and carefully sized him up. After a moment, he faintly sensed the aura on Duke Saya's body that belonged to his law of creation, deducing from this person must be Immortal Emperor Songhai. However, the aura of Immortal Emperor Songhai's spirit on him had become extremely faint. Instead, it was the newly born Saya's spirit ripple that was very obvious. The order of the two seemed to have been reversed. Just as Xing Hui was sizing up Saya, the extremely sensitive Duke seemed to have sensed something. His gaze turned and landed on Xing Hui, who wasn't hiding his presence. At this moment, the few maids and the woman in the room also looked at Xing Hui with a surprised expression. The music in the room stopped. "Mister, may I know who you are?" The young woman who was playing, Bai Lin of the White Knight imperial family, raised her head and asked in surprise. However, before she finished speaking, Saya seemed to have thought of something and suddenly gestured with his hand. "Madam, this mister is my guest. Please rest here for a moment. I have something to discuss with this guest." Bai Lin looked at Saya with a surprised expression. She seemed to find it strange that she had never heard of Saya having such a friend after knowing him for so many years. However, the virtuous Bai Lin didn't say anything and just smiled. "If you have something important to discuss, then go ahead. I will practice for a while." Saya nodded and said to Xing Hui with a bit of restraint. Mister, please follow me. We will talk over there." Xing Hui nodded slightly and followed Saya out of the room. After Xing Hui and Saya left, Bai Lin's expression became slightly more serious. She immediately said to one of her maids, "Quick, go to His Majesty and ask the imperial family's great consecrator to come here. Tell him to use the transportation formation to come here as soon as possible." Imperial family's great consecrator. Use the transportation formation. The personal guard was slightly startled and seemed a little surprised. The great consecrator was a glorious sun ranker. He was one of the top figures in the entire White Knight Empire. He was only second to the Grand Tutor, the King, the Emperor, and the retired Emperor. What kind of matter would actually alarm the great consecrator? "I have known Saya for so many years, but I have never seen this person. Moreover, although Saya said that this person was his guest, he obviously didn't even know his name. Most importantly, I noticed that when Saya looked at him, he was very nervous. It seemed like he was worried or afraid of something. It can be seen that this person is very problematic. Whether he is our enemy or not, if he can make Saya so worried, he is obviously not an opponent that Saya can deal with. Therefore, we can only ask the great consecrator to come here to ensure that nothing goes wrong. Bai Lin explained with a nervous expression. Yes, Your Highness. I will go inform the great consecrator. While Bai Lin was in a hurry, Qing Su had already arrived at a room that resembled a study under Saya's lead. Moreover, all the guards retreated far away with a single order from him. After the two of them sat down, Saya glanced at Qing Su with a complicated expression. After quite a while, you're finally here. Looking at Saya who said this, Tsing Hui's heart slightly moved. He seemed a little surprised. Your memory has awakened. If I hadn't awakened, how could I have recognized you with a single glance? After all, your current appearance and aura have undergone an enormous change compared to before. If I hadn't borrowed the power of your laws when I was reborn, I might not have been able to recognize you. Tsing Hui frowned. Since you have awakened, then, why did you marry Lin, and give birth to 3 adorable children? Saya, or rather, Immortal Emperor Songhai seemed to understand Tsing Hui's thoughts and continued his words. Tsing Hui nodded. I can only say that your power of the law is more amazing than I imagined. Not only did it reshape my identity, life aura, and soul aura, it even reshaped my life. It was also the first time Qing Su had used the laws of fortune to reincarnate someone. Back then, he did not actually understand the wonders of the laws of fortune completely. However, when he was surrounded by thousands of great ability users, he had no time to think too much about it. He had no choice but to release it. But now that he thought about it, the drawbacks of the law of creation were obvious. You were affected by your new self. Do you know when I awakened? Immortal Emperor Songhai did not answer. Tsing Hui's heart moved. Could it be? That's right, it was 1,000 years ago. 1,000 years ago. Tsing Hui's heart trembled. You took 4,000 years to awaken. However, he quickly thought of himself. He originally thought that his reincarnation would not require him to awaken. But in reality, it still took him 100 years. He originally thought that it was because he had split his soul at the last moment and used an avatar mixed with the law fragment of the Burning Blood Lord to attract the will of the universe. Now it seemed that the burden brought by the law of creation also had an impact. During the 100 years that he had not awakened, his subconscious controlled his body. This subconscious was gradually awakening, forming a new consciousness that began to absorb his original consciousness. However, his original consciousness was extremely powerful. Coupled with the fact that he had awakened earlier, he had absorbed and refined the new consciousness in one fell swoop before it matured. He did not feel anything strange during the entire process. However, Immortal Emperor Songhai was different. Immortal Emperor Songhai was only an immortal emperor and did not have much resistance in the face of his own law of creation. In addition, his subconscious had given birth to a new consciousness early on. This new consciousness had most likely absorbed Immortal Emperor Songhai's original consciousness. Under such circumstances, although this consciousness could still be called Immortal Emperor Songhai and had all of Immortal Emperor Songhai's experiences and memories, it had lived for 4,000 years and given birth to a new personality. It was completely different from the original Immortal Emperor Songhai. I think my current life is very good. Therefore, Lord Tsing Hui, please forgive me for not being able to follow you back to the immortal Tao civilization. Chapter 952. I feel that my current life is very good. Therefore, Lord Tsing Hui, please forgive me for not being able to follow you back to the immortal Tao civilization. Immortal Emperor Songhai, he could only be described as Grand Duke Saya now. After saying that, the Duke bowed respectfully to Tsing Hui with an apologetic expression. Xing Hui lowered his head slightly and looked at Grand Duke Saya, who had the same aura as immortal Emperor Songhai. With a stern expression, he asked, "You're saying that you don't want to return to the immortal Dao civilization? You want to betray your civilization?" Grand Duke Saya smiled wryly. Compared to the powerful Lord of Chaos, Lord of Gods, and Lord of Time, what use would a mere immortal emperor like me be in a civilization war? I probably don't even have the right to be cannon fodder. Any great ability cultivator can kill me easily. The immortal Dao civilization only has the Heavenly Lord and you, Sir Qing Su. That's enough. Qing Su could not help but frown as he looked at Grand Duke Saya. Although Grand Duke Saya and Immortal Emperor Songhai were the same person, Immortal Emperor Songhai had been in a dormant state for a long time. Grand Duke Saya had absorbed all of Immortal Emperor Songhai's soul and memories. It was like a person with a complete life awakening the memories of their previous life. Perhaps they could use the memories for their own use, but they would never allow themselves to become a continuation of their previous life. Moreover, Xing Hui felt helpless. Even if he killed Grand Duke Saya, there was nothing he could do. His personality had already taken shape, but Grand Duke Saya was the leader. Although he was Grand Duke Saya, killing him was no different from killing Immortal Emperor Songhai. Immortal Emperor Songhai has become the immortal Dao civilization's #1 formation master ever since he comprehended the mysteries of teleportation formations. Therefore, although you'll only be at the glorious Sun realm when you recover to your peak, there's no need to belittle yourself. The immortal Dao civilization still needs your formation power. I remember my duty, but I'm not just Immortal Emperor Songhai, but Grand Duke Saya as well. I need to be responsible for my wife and daughter. This is simple. Xing Hui's expression was indifferent. You can transfer your entire family to the immortal Dao civilization. If you're willing, you can also transfer the main members of the Day-Night Empire to the immortal Dao civilization. Since I've brought you out of the domain of the Lord of Chaos, I naturally have the responsibility and obligation to bring you back. There was a hint of hesitation on Saya's face. After a while, he said, Lord Xing Hui, the immortal Dao civilization cannot win the war against the Master of Chaos, the Master of Gods, and the Master of Time. We all know this very well. The immortal Dao civilization was defeated by these three supreme existences when they were at their peak. Now, we are only left with the Heavenly Lord of plentiful treasures. Therefore, it would be irresponsible of us to bring my wives and daughters back to the territory of the Master of Chaos. At this point, his tone became slightly more serious. I'm living here now, and I feel very good, very good. Qing Su looked at the man who called himself Sayadu rather than Immortal Emperor Songhai and stared at him solemnly. Do you really think the Lord of Burning Blood's Chaos Verse can avoid this war? Back in the day, the Lord of Searing Blood stole a supreme treasure from the Master of Chaos and ruined his plans. If the Master of Chaos really does find traces of eternity in the immortal Dao civilization and breaks through to the eternal realm, do you think he'll let the Lord of Searing Blood go? Even if the Master of Chaos doesn't break through to the eternal realm in the end, he'll still vent his anger on the Lord of Searing Blood. When that happens, the Lord of Searing Blood and the Chaos Verse he created will still be destroyed. The timeline of Chaos beings is completely different from that of us ordinary beings. Hundreds of thousands of years, millions of years, even tens of millions of years, or even hundreds of millions of years, are nothing to the great Chaos beings. By the time the great Chaos beings are done with their affairs and set their sights on the Lord of Searing Blood's world, I'm sure I'll have died of old age. When that time comes, everything will have nothing to do with me. Die of old age? I'm afraid you won't be able to let go of your life then. Xing Hui said. At the same time, he looked at Immortal Emperor Vast Sea in disbelief. This scene was even more unacceptable to him than if Immortal Emperor Vast Sea hadn't awakened in the end. An immortal emperor of the origin firmament, a powerful being who had been on the path of cultivation for who knew how many millions of years, had actually given up everything he bore for the sake of mortal love. This was simply inconceivable. The man who called himself Immortal Emperor Vast Sea fell silent and didn't reply for a very long time. After a long while, he bowed to Tsing-Hui again, his face brimming with guilt. Lord Tsing-Hui, I insist on my choice. I hope to remain in this world. Tsing-Hui felt rather helpless as he looked at Immortal Emperor Vastsi. In truth, whether or not Immortal Emperor Vastsi returned to the immortal Tao civilization wasn't all that important. Tsing-Hui alone could deal with more than half of the great masters at present, and a mere immortal emperor of the origin firmament wasn't even qualified to be cannon fodder against supreme existences like the Lord of Chaos, Lord of Time, and Lord of Gods. In this situation, it really didn't matter if Immortal Emperor Vastsi returned to the immortal Tao civilization or not. It was just that Tsing-Hui felt that he couldn't get past this hurdle. Only after quite a while did Qing Su sigh. Just when he was about to say something, he sensed something and glanced at the surroundings. It was the guards of the entire Grand Duke's mansion. Among them, there was an army of gold and platinum rank powerhouses in the distance. In addition, there were two powerful auras that suddenly appeared in this large city. Judging from the energy intensity of these two people, they had probably reached the glorious sun rank. Not long after Tsing-Hui sensed the arrival of these people, Saya, who was a moonlight ranker, also sensed them. His expression immediately changed. Lord Tsing-Hui, this is a misunderstanding. Please believe me, I have absolutely no enmity towards you. Bang. At this moment, the door of the study was pushed open. Two glorious sun rankers and Bai Lin, the woman who had accompanied Saya earlier, barged into the study together with a group of guards. Lord Tsing-Hui, please don't worry. I can resolve this matter. Saya hurriedly explained to Tsing-Hui. At the same time, he turned to Bai Lin and the two glorious sun mages and shouted, What are you doing? Lin, how could you be so foolish as to alert the head consecrator and the head commander? Duke Saya, is this person a threat to your safety? If so, please tell us directly. Our White Knight Empire will not allow any of our men to be harmed by outsiders. That's not the case. This mister is my esteemed guest. There is no conflict between us. You've misunderstood. Saya hurriedly explained. He was very clear that the man in front of him was a terrifying existence that could kill his way out of the encirclement of thousands of legend-rank powerhouses of the Eternal Shrine alone. Any memory of Tsing-Hui that Immortal Emperor Tsang-Hai had regarding him clearly showed how powerful Tsing-Hui was. Not to mention the two glorious sun rankers and the head commander, even if the great backer of the White Knight Empire, that legend-rank powerhouse, came in person, he would be easily killed if he angered Tsing-Hui. Duke Saya, are you being threatened by them? Please tell us clearly. I believe that our White Knight Empire has the ability to protect any noble. The glorious Sun Ranker's head commander said in a deep voice. His words carried a kind of confidence. I'm really not. Esteemed head consecrator and head commander, please don't worry. I'm really fine. This mister is my esteemed guest and has no hostility toward me. Saya hurriedly explained. Saya, I've known you for so many years. I know you very well. This person in front of you is definitely not your friend. When you saw him, you were very nervous and even frightened. I can't be wrong about this. Bai Lin's tone was very firm. It's not like that. Lin, Tsang-Hai, from now on, do you plan to stay with a group of frogs at the bottom of a well? Abandoning your responsibilities, abandoning your original appearance, and deceiving yourself and others to live this kind of stable and peaceful life that you thought to be? But in fact, you should know better than me that this world is far crueler than what you see in front of you. Take your current happy life as an example. Once your kingdom offends a powerful opponent, it will be wiped out with a wave of the hand. At that time, your so-called future, everything you cherish, will also vanish like smoke and turn into bubbles. So, is this really what you want? Do you really want to weave a false dream for yourself? Tsing-Hui on the side said indifferently. Lord Tsing-Hui, Saya said with a solemn expression, regardless of whether my so-called life is a dream that I weave, regardless of what kind of disaster I will encounter in the future, since I have made this choice, I am prepared to bear the consequences that I may face. Who are you? What do you want to do to Saya? Saya is the Duke of the White Knight Empire, and I am the Princess of the White Knight Empire. If you... Bai Lin heard Xing Hui's unfriendly words and immediately stepped forward to reprimand Xing Hui. Noisy. However, before she could finish her words, Xing Hui had already snorted coldly and slapped at Bai Lin. However, before Xing Hui's attack landed on Bai Lin, Saya had already stepped in front of Bai Lin. Xing Hui's palm landed on Saya's body, causing his body to shake, and he couldn't help but take 3 steps back. Saya. Duke Saya. Lin, don't be rude. This mister is a top legend rank expert. Saya was afraid that Bai Lin and the others' actions would anger Xing Hui again, so he hurriedly shouted. Top legend rank expert. The expressions of the 2 glorious Sun rankers who were originally furious froze, and their actions of stepping forward to stop Yishuan froze on the spot. Legend rank experts were also divided into ordinary, high, top, and strongest. Although the White Knight Empire had a legend rank expert as their backer, he was just an ordinary legend. Not to mention a top legend rank expert, even a high legend rank expert wouldn't dare to provoke him. And this young man in front of them was actually a top legend rank creature. You'd rather stand in front of me than return? Xing Hui looked at Saya and sighed in his heart. Lord Xing Hui. I've disappointed you. Saya lowered his head guiltily. Xing Hui was silent. After a while, he said, it won't be long before a huge catastrophe occurs in the entire chaotic universe. I will lead the Lord of Red Hell and the Sacrificial Blood Shrine to overthrow the rule of the Eternal Shrine and further kill the will of the universe. The aftermath of this war will definitely sweep across the entire universe, and no force will be spared. When that time comes, I hope you won't regret your choice today. After that, he didn't say anything else and slowly walked out of the study. Chapter 953. Husband, Bai Lin walked to Saya's side and said in surprise, that man, is he really a top legend? Saya saw Xing Hui leave and heaved a sigh of relief. Hearing Bai Lin's question, he nodded slightly. Lord Xing Hui is the most powerful legend I have ever seen. In fact, there was one more thing he did not add, which was that even the high priest of the Eternal Temple was no match for Xing Hui. However, every single legendary expert who had reached this level was renowned throughout the universe. They were known and revered by everyone, and there was clearly no such figure as Qing Su among them. If he forced it out, it might even arouse the suspicion of others and lead to even more unnecessary misunderstandings. Since it concerns a legendary champion, this is no small matter. Duke Saya, what is your relationship with that legendary champion? Are you friends or foes? The Grand Commander asked with a serious expression. A legendary strong man, especially a top legendary strong man, could completely shake the rule of the White Knight Empire. Saya organized his words and said, I only met this legend by chance. Due to my talent in formations, he needed my help in some areas and we became good friends. This time, he came to invite me to explore a dangerous place. However, that place was already dangerous for him and even more so for me. In the White Knight Empire, I am already living a good life. For Lin, and my 3 children, I can't put myself in that kind of dangerous place. So, I can only choose to reject him. He needs your help in formations, the Grand Commander nodded in realization. Duke Saya's talent in the field of formations had been revealed early on. It could be said that the reason why Saya's group from another plane could be conferred the title of Duke was because of his marriage to the princess. Another reason was that he had cultivated moonshine at a young age, and the most important reason was because of his talent in formations. Naturally, the White Knight Empire would try their best to rope in such talented cultivators. If it wasn't for the fact that Saya's group had only been in the White Knight Empire for a short period of time, it wouldn't be difficult for them to be crowned as kings in the future. After understanding the cause and effect of the matter, the Grand Commander hesitated for a moment and said, Duke Saya, although this request is unreasonable, but if that lord is really a peak legend like you said, then his influence must be far beyond our imagination. You should understand that our White Knight Empire is currently at war with the Sunrise Empire, and an all-out war could break out at any time. If you can agree to that lord's request, and earnestly ask that lord to help our White Knight Empire even if it's just a show of support, it will certainly make the legend rank expert behind the Sunrise Empire not dare to act rashly at that time. We will be able to make a big move, defeat the Sunrise Empire, and establish our White Knight Empire as the overlord of the Maplewood continent. You want me to agree to that lord's request? Saya looked at the Grand Commander in front of him in disbelief. I know this is a bit presumptuous, and it may put Duke Saya in danger, but for the sake of the Empire's victory, there must be someone who understands the difficulties and steps forward. Saya looked at the Grand Commander and said in a deep voice, Grand Commander should understand how dangerous it is for a mere moonshine rank to get involved in the plans of a peak legend rank expert. That place can't even guarantee that lord, a peak legend, can escape unscathed. He might even die, let alone a mere moonshine rank like me. Therefore, if I really get involved in this matter, the probability of me returning safely is at most a sliver. The Grand Commander looked at Duke Saya in front of him and his expression became even more solemn. In the war between the White Knight Empire and the Sunrise Empire, there are people dying every day. In the war 3 months ago, our White Knight Empire lost a marquis, 14 viscounts, and over 100 low-ranking nobles. Since we have been conferred the title of nobles and enjoy the various privileges and conveniences of nobles, we should naturally shoulder the responsibilities of nobles. Right now, Duke Saya, since you have a better way to help our White Knight Empire win this war and save countless lives, then why don't you do it? After saying that, his gaze fell on Bai Lin. Your Highness, a valuable sacrifice, is a great honor for us nobles, and even the royal family. Moreover, although Duke Saya's trip can be said to be dangerous, it isn't to the extent where death is certain. Furthermore, if our royal family is willing to help you break through to the glorious sun rank during this period of time, then Duke Saya's chances of survival should be greatly increased, right? I will report this matter to His Majesty, and I believe His Majesty will make the same choice as me. Therefore, during this period of time, please advise Duke Saya well. This Princess Bai Lin hesitated for a moment. As a member of the royal family, she had long been instilled with the ideology of being loyal to the empire and the royal family. Although she and Duke Saya were very loving, this kind of love didn't mean that she could abandon her mission, her dignity, and her duty. The two glorious sun rank experts quickly left, leaving Duke Saya and Princess Bai Lin alone. Duke Saya looked at Bai Lin, and faintly had a bad premonition in his heart. However, he still looked at her and asked with a serious face, Lin, are you also planning to advise me to cooperate with Lord Xinghui's plan? I hope you can tell me in detail, what does that legend want you to help with? What kind of dangers will there be on the way? If we can think of a way to deal with these dangers, then it will undoubtedly greatly increase your chances of survival. If there is a high chance of returning safely after helping that legend, then why don't we use this method to borrow the power of that legend to end the war between the Day Night Empire and the Sunglow Empire? Saya looked at Princess Bai Lin. Xinghui wanted him to return to the immortal civilization, and then fight against the Master of Chaos, the Master of Gods, and the Master of Time together. However, he couldn't tell Bai Lin too much about this. Even if he told her, she might not understand. For a moment, his face couldn't help but reveal a pained expression. Lin, I can only tell you that if I really go with him, then, it is very likely that I will never be able to return. Even if I can return, it will probably be after an incomparably long time. What does that legend want you to do? Tell me, and we can think of a way together. The war between the Day Night Empire and the Sunglow Empire requires all the strength of the Empire to have any hope of winning. If we can use you to save the Empire and defeat the Sunglow Empire in a roundabout way, I believe that the entire Empire will definitely not be stingy with all kinds of resources to help you through this difficult time. Lin, you should understand the influence of a top legend. If relying on resources can solve the problem, won't he make more preparations for me? This is different. That legend is still a legend, and he needs to take care of the big picture. With his status, it is impossible for him to pour all his resources into one person. However, the Day-Night Empire is different. If we can see the hope of victory in this war in you, I believe that even the ancestors of the Day-Night Empire will personally come and help you. Saya shook his head. This matter couldn't be explained with words. Saya, I hope you can think about it carefully. For the Empire, for us, and for the countless people who may be sacrificed on the battlefield. Bai Lin said sincerely. Saya looked at Bai Lin. What if you will lose me forever because of this? Saya, I will never let this happen. Even if I do my best, even if I beg the ancestors, I will not allow this to happen. Bai Lin said, looking gently at Saya and reaching out to touch his face. If that day really comes, I will go with you. Xing Hui didn't go far. Or rather, he wasn't completely disappointed in immortal Emperor Zhang Hai. He was waiting for him to think things through and return. Sure enough, after waiting for a long time, he was satisfied with the result. On the 10th day after he left Duke Saya's mansion, Saya appeared in the inn he was staying in. No one came with him, not even his beloved wife Bai Lin. Lord Xing Hui. Saya came before Xing Hui and respectfully greeted him. Xing Hui looked at Saya, whose spirit and bearing had obviously changed greatly compared to 10 days ago. With a faint smile on his face, he said, "It seems that you have thought things through, Duke Saya. I was blinded by the mortal world before me. I am willing to follow you to the immortal Tao civilization. Tempering your heart in the mortal world. This experience is beneficial to you. Wait until you return to the immortal Tao civilization and settle down in the exalted heaven. I believe that the immortal Tao civilization will have a second heavenly lord after the heavenly lord of myriad treasures." I hope so. Saya smiled wryly. At the same time, he said, "However, there is one thing that I hope you can help me with. Completing this matter will be considered as an explanation for my life." Speak. Currently, the Day-Night Empire and the Sunglow Empire are at war and the situation is getting more and more intense. I hope that you can use your influence to help the Day-Night Empire defeat the Sunglow Empire. Saya paused slightly at this point. Consider it my final contribution to the Day-Night Empire. This is simple. This matter is simple. I remember that the reason why the White Knight Empire, Sunglow Empire, and the other empires have such momentum is because they have legendary powerhouses behind them. Currently, the Lord of Crimson Hell has contacted the Shrine of Sacrificial Blood to counterattack the Eternal Shrine. All legendary powerhouses will only have two choices, surrender or die. When the time comes, I'll find a time to kill the legendary powerhouse behind the Sunglow Empire. I'll even wipe out the legendary powerhouses behind the other major forces in the Maplewood dimension. When the time comes, the White Knight Empire will naturally be able to secure its position as the largest empire in the Maplewood dimension. Xing Hui said faintly. Saya understood that Xing Hui was fully capable of this. He nodded and said, "Then, thank you very much. Whenever you want to leave, just let me know." Chapter 954. The Eternal Shrine. The Lord of Burning Blood was the most powerful force in the chaotic universe. The shrine itself had thousands of legendary creatures, and if large forces like the Grey Tower, the City of 10,000 Worlds, and the Church of Dawn were included, the number of legendary powerhouses that the Eternal Shrine could mobilize could definitely reach an astonishing 2,000 to 3,000. The most respected high priest in the shrine was equivalent to the spokesperson of the Lord of Burning Blood. His status was no different from the black and white supremacy in the territory of the Lord of Chaos, and he had the right to directly communicate with the Lord of Burning Blood at critical moments. In the universe of the Lord of Burning Blood, he had a status that was second only to one and above all, and was respected by countless cultivators and even legendary powerhouses. However, at this moment, the High Priest of the Eternal Shrine looked rather tired. Even the Pope of the Church of Dawn, Te Brown, the master of the Grey Tower, Long Chi, the city lord of the City of 10,000 Worlds, and the dean of the Twilight Academy, Yade, and the master of the Crystal Forest, who were slightly inferior to these three forces, looked the same. As for the reason, it was because of the rebellion of the Lord of Red Hell and the Shrine of Burning Blood under the leadership of Tsing Hui. Everyone, according to the information I received from the Great Will of the Universe, the leader of the Lord of Scarlet Hell's bloodline, an E, is an alien who blasphemed against our Lord more than 5,000 years ago. Because of this, he has the power to break through the boundary, allowing him to exert strength far beyond that of a legend. Thus, he led the Lord of Scarlet Hell's bloodline and the rebels of the Shrine of Sacrificial Blood to conquer many of our strongholds on the periphery. Therefore, we cannot lose this battle. If we do, the entire chaotic universe will change hands, and all of us will succumb to the rule of the Lord of Scarlet Hell's bloodline. The High Priest's face was gloomy as he spoke worriedly. We also know that the rebellion that caused such a huge commotion must belong to the Lord of Scarlet Hell. However, the main problem now is actually the person from another world called an E. He has broken through the boundary and is above the legendary realm. Ordinary legends like us can't resist him at all. Even if a few of us ultimate legends go, we can only barely keep our lives. If we face him head-on, only death awaits us. Under such circumstances, the legendary realm masters under our command don't have the heart to fight at all. Even if we want to mobilize them to stop that terrifying existence, they're afraid and their morale is extremely low. There's only one way to break this situation. Pope Tabron of the Church of Dawn had a solemn expression. This way is to implore the will of the universe to release all the legendary shackles on us. Only when these shackles are completely broken, each of us legendary powerhouses will be able to exert our power to the best of our ability. The advantage that the person from another world called an E will naturally be broken. Even the rebellion of the Shrine of Sacrificial Blood will be quelled. Pope Tabron is right. I have contacted the Shrine Master of the Shrine of Sacrificial Blood. In fact, they have no intention of blaspheming our Lord. They are only pursuing a higher realm. It is precisely because the will of the universe exists that their path forward is blocked. As a last resort, they can only choose to raise their flag and embark on the path of rebellion. If the High Priest can offer a sacrifice to the will of the universe to release the shackles on us, I can't guarantee the others, but at least the Shrine of Sacrificial Blood will definitely withdraw from this rebellion. Master of the Dark Tower, Bright Star, echoed. I also agree with the two of you. Without the Shrine of Sacrificial Blood, these rebels would have lost an arm. In addition, when our cultivation level increases, the advantage that the person from another world has will also be wiped out by us. Only then can we easily obtain the final victory. Lord of the City of 1,000 Worlds, Long Chi, nodded. Sealing the universe is the strategy that our Lord set when he left. It has been implemented for more than 3 million years. Except for our Lord, no one can go against it. The High Priest said in a low voice. There is no doubt that our Lord's strategy is correct, but today is different from the past. Our Lord has not replied and it has been hundreds of thousands of years. Only the will of the universe is left to maintain the normal operation of the universe. The environment is different, so we should have different ways of judging. Although this strategy was set up by our Lord, the will of the universe, which is the remnant of our Lord's consciousness, also has the ability to change this strategy and unlock the shackles on everyone. The High Priest shook his head. Even if we can now pray to the heavens and let the will of the universe unlock the shackles of the universe on us, it will still take hundreds or even thousands of years for you to adapt to the skyrocketing power in your body. But now, those rebels have removed all of our peripheral forces and have attacked our supreme divine realm. We don't have so much time to wait for hundreds or thousands of years. Back then, the Eternal Shrine was blessed by the Great Lord of Burning Blood. Its defense was so strong that it was far from being breached by any legendary powerhouse. Even the cultivators of the Lord of Scarlet Hell were no exception. If we could retreat to the Eternal Shrine and cultivate wholeheartedly, we would definitely be able to annihilate these rebels in one fell swoop. You want me to give up the supreme divine realm? Let those rebels blaspheme the divine realm. The high priest stared coldly at the lord of the city of 1,000 worlds who proposed this. That's not the case. We just want to provide some time and space for the Lord of Red Hell and the Shrine of Sacrificial Blood. From the fact that the Lord of Red Hell and the Shrine of Sacrificial Blood don't dare to act in the same direction, it can be seen that there is no trust between these two forces. If we temporarily withdraw our forces and unlock the shackles on everyone, the Shrine of Sacrificial Blood will lose its target. Moreover, they occupy the supreme divine realm. At that time, it will be a good thing if they don't have internal strife with the Lord of Red Hell and the Shrine of Sacrificial Blood. When these two forces fight for the control of the supreme divine realm and both suffer losses, we, who have mastered each other's strength, will rush out and defeat the Lord of Red Hell and the Shrine of Sacrificial Blood, and restore the supreme divine realm. The Lord of the City of 1,000 Worlds said confidently. That's right. That person from another world is too strong. Not long ago, during the Battle of the Bridge, he killed more than 300 legendary masters alone. If we include the battle at the ancestral lands of the Yin family and several other battles of different sizes, the number of legendary masters who have fallen at his hands alone will reach 800. This is almost half of all our legendary masters. If we don't stop him, let alone defeat him, we don't even know if the legendary masters under our command will have the courage to fight him. Tebrin nodded solemnly. The morale of the Knights Templar of our church is also on the verge of collapse. I estimate that if we lose again, they will swarm over and no longer obey the orders of our Lord. When the high priest heard how serious the problem was, even though he knew that these people were more or less selfish, he did not know how to refute them. At this moment, a swordsman in golden armor hurriedly rushed in from outside the hall. Not good, High Priest. Lords, the rebels have already broken through the Twilight Fort. According to the information from the outpost, there is no longer any force in their path that can stop them. All the rebels are heading straight for the Eternal Shrine. What? They lost just like that. There are 800 legendary masters on the Twilight Fort. In addition, there are millions of Starlight, Moonlight, and Glorious Sun rankers, as well as all kinds of magic arrays, divine weapons, and war fortresses. How long has it been? They actually lost? The high priest stood up in shock, his eyes full of disbelief. The swordsman in golden armor who reported the news bitterly said, "It's that person from another world. He rushed into the Twilight Fort alone and started a massacre. In less than 2 hours, he has already killed more than 30 legendary masters and tens of thousands of elites. This led to the collapse of the Twilight Fort." That person from another world, the high priest's expression was ugly. In fact, he was more shocked by the number of legendary masters lost. There were 800 legendary masters, but they had only lost 30 or so, which was not even a tenth of them. However, these elites who had been through hundreds of battles and believed in the Lord of Burning Blood had collapsed just like that. It could be seen how low the morale of the people at the front line was. With this kind of morale, if they continued to fight forcefully, then the next time that otherworldly being appeared on the battlefield, their side would collapse on its own. War, most of the time, it was not a matter of the number of people on both sides. At the thought of this, the high priest finally recognized the reality in front of him. He glanced at the supreme legends who were also faintly fearful, and finally took a deep breath. That person from another world. Given our current strength, we really can't defeat him. Pass down my orders, have all the legends in the Twilight Fortress retreat to the Eternal Shrine as quickly as possible. Once they arrive, we will activate the defensive light barrier of the Eternal Shrine and temporarily defend. This defensive light barrier has been blessed by our Lord, and can't be broken by anyone's strength. Seeing that the High Priest had finally chosen to retreat, the Master of the Dark Tower, the Pope of the Church of Dawn, the City Lord of Myriad World City, and the others all breathed a sigh of relief. During this period, it was not that there were no supreme legends who had gone to stop Tsing Hui, but unfortunately, in front of Tsing Hui, the supreme legends could only hold on for a little longer. In the end, they were still mercilessly killed, and could not even escape. Under such circumstances, if they were to face Tsing Hui, they would still not end up well. Then about the sacrifice to the will of the universe to remove the shackles, I'll make preparations and activate the altar. Chapter 955. The Eternal Shrine. I never thought that I would be able to appear in front of the Eternal Shrine openly one day, and as the victor, Yi Futian muttered to himself as he stood before the Eternal Shrine. Elder Eclipse said with a rueful expression. Beside him, in front of the Eternal Divine Palace, a huge team of nearly 800 people stood there, looking at the largest and most majestic divine palace shrouded in a huge curtain of light. Each of them had a strange look on their faces. They were excited, and expectant, but more than that, there was an indescribable emotion. Especially the sacrificial blood shrine. For them, the Eternal Shrine in front of them was equivalent to the imperial city in the eyes of mortals. It was sacred, majestic, and inviolable. Usually, they could only look up and admire it. But now, this shrine was about to be trampled under their feet. And all of this, it was caused by a man who looked rather young and whose life aura was only 5,000 years old. Thinking of this, the shrine master of the sacrificial blood shrine, Roman, who had the cultivation of an ultimate legend, looked at Tsing Hui with more fear. The other party could easily destroy the Eternal Shrine, which was 2 or 3 times more powerful than them. If he turned around and attacked them, it would be equally easy. Thinking of this, Roman looked at the Eternal Shrine with flickering eyes. Perhaps, when attacking the Eternal Shrine, the sacrificial blood shrine would have to consider the issue of indirectly weakening the people of the Lord of Red Hell. Lord An, the High Priest of the Eternal Shrine, has joined forces with the surviving legendary experts to hide in the shrine. Moreover, they have activated the defensive formation of the shrine. This formation was blessed by the Lord of Burning Blood and is extremely difficult to break. Back then, the Eternal Shrine used 6 ultimate experts to lead 1,000 legendary experts to try to attack this rainproof shield. As a result, after 10 years, not even 1% of the rainproof shield's power was reduced. Xue Chuan said with a solemn expression beside Tsing Hui. He obviously knew the huge shrine in the light screen very well. Oh. Tsing Hui's gaze fell on the light screen. In the Eternal Shrine, many people were sizing up Tsing Hui through the light screen while estimating the strength of each other. At present, there are about 1,000 legendary powerhouses in the Eternal Shrine. However, the most famous legendary powerhouses are all concentrated in the shrine. Including the High Priest, there are 6 of them. Moreover, although the other legendary powerhouses have been scattered by us and lost their will to fight, once our attack here is obstructed, they will definitely gather again. When that happens, the number of legendary powerhouses on the Eternal Shrine's side will at least climb to 1,500. Therefore, we can either not attack in this battle, or we have to destroy the Eternal Shrine as soon as possible. The longer we delay, the more disadvantageous it will be for us. Elder Ingjin chimed in. That may be the case, but the Eternal Shrine's formation is not that easy to break. Back then, when the Eternal Shrine was conducting an experiment, the 6 ultimate experts led 1,000 legendary experts to attack this formation, but after 10 years, less than 1% of the formation's power was reduced, and this was because the other party only sent less than 100 legendary experts to maintain the formation. Now, there are 1,000 legendary experts in the Eternal Shrine, and the number of legendary experts on our side is less than that of the 6 ultimate experts and 1,000 legendary experts. Doesn't that mean that we will need at least 10,000 years to break the formation? Yu Gu said worriedly. In fact, this is not the problem I'm most worried about. I'm afraid that the people of the Eternal Shrine are playing tricks in the dark, trying to, before Elder Qin Zhao, who had followed closely behind, could finish his words, a stream of light had already shot into the sky, straight into the clouds, and then rose again without slowing down, as if to shoot into the depths of the heavens. As this stream of light shot straight into the heavens, a vast and terrifying will began to condense above the Eternal Shrine. At the same time, circles of light began to slowly spread out in all directions with the Eternal Shrine as the center. Although the spreading speed was not fast, the area of effect far exceeded everyone's imagination. Not only did it spread to the entire higher realm in an instant, it also swept towards other planes without slowing down, as if to engulf the entire chaotic universe. As the light spread, the changes brought about by the spread of light were quickly reflected on the legendary experts present. This is, Roman, the hallmaster of the Shrine of Swamp Blood, who had the keenest senses, immediately sensed the subtle changes between himself and this world, and was pleasantly surprised at once. The shackles of the entire universe on extraordinary power seemed to have loosened a little. No. No. It's not loosening a little, but unraveling. The will of the universe is gradually unlocking the shackles on extraordinary power. Immediately after, the other legendary experts could not suppress their surprise and cheers. It's true. The will of the universe has really unlocked the extraordinary power's suppression and shackles on us. It's unlocked. It's finally unlocked. The shackles on us have been unlocked. From now on, our path of ascension will no longer be cut off, and with our own efforts, we will one day reach the level of chaos beings above the legends. Ha ha ha, this is great. This day has finally come. Our realm has long been sufficient, but because of the existence of the universal shackles, we simply could not come into contact with the power of laws of a higher level. Our realm was empty, but we could not come into contact with the true mysteries of the universe. But now, this barrier no longer exists. In a few years, I will be able to adapt to the changes brought about by the unlocking of the universal shackles. When the time comes, I will be able to stabilize my realm and truly attempt to stride towards that transcendent and great realm. All sorts of cries rang out from the mouths of these legendary experts, so much so that some legendary experts did not even care about attacking the Eternal Shrine and dealing it a fatal blow. Instead, they began to enter a half-cultivation state, hoping to obtain greater power as soon as possible. Oh no! Compared to the surprise of the other legendary experts, Eclipse, Xuechuan, Ghostbone, and the other legendary experts who vaguely understood the Eternal Shrine's actions immediately thought of something, and their expressions sank slightly. Damn it, the Eternal Shrine is trying to drive a wedge between us by unlocking the universal shackles, breaking our alliance with the Sacrificial Blood Shrine and reducing our strength. As Xuechuan spoke, he glanced at the nearly 500 legendary experts on the Sacrificial Blood Shrine side. At that moment, some of these legendary experts were suggesting to the Sacrificial Blood Shrine's temple master to temporarily retreat. Since they had already obtained what they wanted and forced the will of the universe to unseal the chaotic universe, there was no need to fight to the death with the Eternal Shrine. After all, they were different from the foreign cultivators of the Lord of Scarlet Hell's lineage. Almost all of them were local cultivators of the Sacrificial Blood Shrine and had deep feelings for this chaotic universe. It's not just through this method of driving a wedge between our alliance with the Sacrificial Blood Shrine. Elder Eclipse thought deeper, and his expression could not help but turn grim. They're also using the power of unlocking the universal shackles to narrow the difference in strength between an E and the other legendary experts. After all, an E himself is in the legendary realm. It's just that he's awakened the power of the primogenitor's bloodline, allowing him to partially break through the will of the universe's seal on his power and unleash combat strength that far surpasses ordinary legendary experts. But once this advantage is erased, even if an E still has combat strength that surpasses ordinary legendary experts, he won't be able to fight 100 alone or even defeat hundreds of legendary experts alone. When that time comes, at most 3 to 5 legendary experts will be able to hold him back. And once an E is held back by them, our advantage will no longer exist. On the other hand, with their advantage in numbers, they will definitely be able to gradually turn the situation around. Hearing Elder Eclipse's words, the hearts of the legendary experts of the Lord of Scarlet Hell's lineage sank. In other words, we have to destroy the Eternal Shrine as soon as possible. Otherwise, what awaits us is only defeat. At this moment, the Sacrificial Blood Shrine's Lord, Roman, who did not want to see the Lord of Scarlet Hell's lineage grow stronger, suddenly spoke. Everyone, the ultimate goal of the sacrificial blood shrine's attack on the eternal shrine is to make the will of the universe release the seal on the entire universe. Now that our goal has been achieved, it's inconvenient for us to continue fighting with you. So, please allow me to take my leave first. As he spoke, he immediately led the sacrificial blood shrine's people to distance themselves from the Lord of Scarlet Hell's lineage. Wait! Lord Luo, if you retreat at this time, you will undoubtedly fail. You have already rebelled against the Eternal Shrine and are labeled as traitors. If we can't completely defeat the Eternal Shrine at this time, it will be difficult for your sacrificial blood shrine to gain a foothold when the Eternal Shrine recovers. That's right, Lord Roman. Now is not the time for us to relax. On the contrary, we should work together and destroy the Eternal Shrine as soon as possible. We can't give them any time to breathe. The legendary experts of the Lord of Scarlet Hell's lineage hurriedly spoke. There's one thing that everyone might be mistaken about. The sacrificial blood shrine has never truly allied with you. Our ultimate goal is to make the will of the universe release the shackles on us so that we can have a chance of becoming chaotic beings. Now that our goal has been achieved, we should naturally retreat. I don't wish for the blood of the blood shrine's legends to flow for the revival of the Lord of Scarlet Hell's lineage. After Lord Roman finished speaking, he no longer spoke to Elder Eclipse and the rest. He immediately led the legendary experts of the sacrificial blood shrine away, as though he was worried that he would be trapped by the Lord of Scarlet Hell's lineage if he was too slow. You, just let them go. Once they leave, we'll cut off their retreat and monopolize the higher plane. Seeing that the elders of the Lord of Scarlet Hell's lineage were about to persuade them to stay, Xing Hui spoke up. At the same time, his gaze fell on the Eternal Shrine. Originally, if they relied on the Eternal Shrine's formation to deal with us, it would take some effort for me to deal with them. But now, they've shrouded themselves in a tortoise shell, and it won't be easy to remove the tortoise shell again. So, before they open the tortoise shell, we can do whatever we want. This way, it'll be much easier to deal with the Eternal Shrine's people. Lord Ani. The people of the Lord of Scarlet Hell's lineage were confused. Xing Hui couldn't be bothered to explain too much to them. He waved his hand. You guys just need to prevent the sacrificial blood shrine from interfering. As for the Eternal Shrine that's completely turned into a tortoise shell, leave it to me. Chapter 956. The moment Xing Hui saw the Eternal Shrine wrapping around him like a tortoise shell, he had already thought of a way to attack it. And this method was very simple. Hum. Hum. The shadow of the immortal Dao civilization appeared over Xing Hui's body and began to erupt with all its might, attacking the seal that the will of the universe had placed on the entire universe. Due to the worship of the Eternal Shrine, the will of the universe had already released the seal on many beings with the help of the chaotic universe. Today, not only had the cultivation of every legendary expert skyrocketed and gradually gained the ability to wield destructive power that was not inferior to the great masters in the Lord of Chaos domain, but the effect of the chaotic universe's restraint on matter and beings within the universe was also much weaker than before. In other words, the chaotic universe of the Burning Blood Lord was equivalent to being wrapped in a layer of steel barrier, and it was almost impossible for ordinary people to break through this barrier. But now, the steel barrier had become a bubble sculpture, and as long as anyone wanted to, they could easily break through this barrier and head to the chaotic void outside the chaotic universe. Without this layer of steel barrier, Xing Hui didn't need to expend too much effort to deal with the Eternal Shrine. For example, he had merely opened up his virtual immortal Dao civilization and forcefully opened a passage to the Chaos Void. When everyone in the Eternal Shrine faintly realized what was going on, he projected the power of the virtual immortal Dao civilization into the Eternal Shrine. Then, he tugged on the Eternal Shrine that was wrapped in a tortoise shell and directly, toward the chaotic void. As Xing Hui pulled the tortoise-shelled Eternal Shrine toward the chaotic void, those of the Lord of Scarlet Hell's bloodline who didn't know how to break the seal on the Eternal Shrine suddenly understood Xing Hui's intentions. Lord An wants to take advantage of the moment when the will of the universe has released the seal on the chaotic universe to move the eternal shrine into the chaotic void. As long as they are thrown into the chaotic void, it would be best to choose a place with chaotic storms, which would sweep the tortoise-shelled eternal shrine into the depths of the chaos. When that happens, the chaotic chi would naturally erode the eternal shrine, and the many legendary creatures hidden within would die to the erosion. Although the will of the universe has unlocked the power shackles on many legendary champions, they would need at least hundreds or thousands of years to accumulate power that matches their realm. It's like mortals who have been thirsty in the desert for a month, their bodies are already extremely weak. Even if they are given water now, they would need several days of recuperation to fully recover, and if they are thrown into the chaotic void before they have the power to match their realm, they would never be able to return to this chaotic universe if they are thrown 10 years away. Elder Eclipse's face was filled with delight. Only Lord An can do this with the help of the primogenitor's bloodline. Quick, quick, let's work together and help Lord An push the eternal shrine into the chaotic void. Yes, yes, yes. Let's work together and push the shrine into the chaotic void. When the legendary champions saw that Xing Hui had already used the illusory immortal Dao civilization to pull the eternal shrine up, shattering layers of power of laws and pushing it into the depths of the chaotic void, they excitedly stepped forward and pushed the eternal shrine, increasing the speed at which it left the chaotic universe. In contrast to the joy of the legendary champions under the Lord of Crimson Hell, the High Priest and the others who thought they could rest easy by hiding in the eternal shrine were completely flustered. Activate the formation, activate the formation. We have to rush out and stop him. Otherwise, if we are really thrown into the chaotic void, only death awaits us. No. In order to prevent that person called An from breaking through the eternal shrine's defensive barrier, we've already welded all the places shut. Some of the formation nodes have been deliberately destroyed. If we want to open the barrier now, we'll have to break through many places like breaking through a formation. Conservatively speaking, we'll need 30 years to fully activate the barrier. An old man with high-tier legendary combat strength and proficient in formations said in agony. 30 years. The High Priest, the Master of the Dark Tower, the Pope of the Church of Dawn, and the others looked at the almost unobstructed universal barrier with horror on their faces. We've completely unlocked the universal will's seal on this part of the universe, and the universal barrier is almost completely undefended. Without the barrier's influence, we'll be dragged into the chaotic void along with the eternal shrine in 10 years at most. A hint of despair appeared in the High Priest's eyes. They were the ones who had unlocked the universal will's seal on the chaotic universe, and they were also the ones who had activated the eternal shrine's defensive barrier. In order to prevent one of the legendary creatures among them from being a traitor, they had deliberately destroyed some key points, making it so that it would take a lot of time to reactivate the barrier. They had basically put themselves in a situation of certain death. Although the shrine of sacrificial blood was retreating, they had already seen the fate of the eternal shrine. Temple Master. If this continues, the eternal shrine will really be thrown into the chaotic void. What should we do? A deputy temple master came to Roman's side and asked aloud. Roman glanced at the legends under the Lord of Crimson Hell. Although they had joined the army to push the eternal shrine into the chaotic void, they were all on high alert. In particular, there were hundreds of legendary experts who were vaguely standing between the eternal shrine and the shrine of sacrificial blood, obviously guarding against the shrine of sacrificial blood from going back on their word. Although the shrine of sacrificial blood was not weak, it was about the same as the Lord of Crimson Hell's bloodline, and this was without taking into account Xing Hui. If they really dared to attack the Lord of Crimson Hell's bloodline at this time, Xing Hui would only need to put aside his matters for a little while, and it would not take long for him to lead the legendary experts under the Lord of Crimson Hell's bloodline to wipe out the shrine of sacrificial blood. After realizing this, Temple Master Roman's expression could not help but turn ugly. It's obviously not a wise thing for us to fall out with the Lord of Crimson Hell's bloodline. The original intention of the Shrine of Sacrificial Blood was to provide a platform for everyone to have the hope of surpassing the legendary realm and becoming a chaotic being. Now that the Eternal Shrine and the Lord of Crimson Hell's bloodline are being held back, there is almost no power in the Supreme Celestial World that can stop us. In order to obtain the greatest benefits, we should now plunder all the resources in the Supreme Celestial World. I believe that as long as we can take all these resources and nurture one or two legendary experts in the Shrine of Sacrificial Blood, even if the Lord of Crimson Hell's bloodline defeats the Eternal Shrine in the future, they will not dare to attack us again. Plunder the Supreme Celestial World. That's the only thing we can do now. Let's go. Hall Master Roman gave the order and led the hundreds of legend rank experts of the Shrine of Sacrificial Blood away. Less than half a month after the Shrine of Sacrificial Blood had left, Shui Chuan, Eclipse, Yingzhen, Qin Zhao, and the other elders had already learned of their whereabouts and deduced their goal. They had worked so hard to conquer the Supreme Divine World, but in the end, it had fallen into the hands of the Sacrificial Blood Divine Temple. Many of the rich resources in the Supreme Divine World had been seized by the Sacrificial Blood Divine Temple, causing the elders to gnash their teeth in anger. However, Qing Su remained indifferent. If the Sacrificial Blood Divine Hall wants the resources, let them have them for now. Just treat the resources as safekeeping for now. Once we've dealt with the Eternal Divine Hall completely, we'll naturally be able to deal with them one by one. But it will take at least a few decades for us to deal with the Eternal Shrine. By then, the Shrine of Sacrificial Blood would have probably relied on the Supreme Celestial World's resources to nurture experts who have recovered their strength. Wouldn't we be at a disadvantage then? Recovered their strength? Xing Hui sneered. So what if they have recovered their strength? Do they really think that I'm able to reign supreme at the legendary stage because of Crimson Hell's bloodline powers that broke the shackles of the universe's will? Elder Eclipse and company were somewhat stunned. Let's push the Eternal Shrine into the Chaos Void with all our might, Xing Hui said as he cast his gaze on the Eternal Shrine. Although the Eternal Shrine was not weak, under the assault of Xing Hui and the many legendary experts from the Lord of Crimson Hell lineage, they were slowly pushed into the abyss. In less than 6 years, Xing Hui had already brought the tortoiseshell Eternal Shrine into the Chaos Void. Relying on the Chaos creature's ability to sense the Chaos Chi, he quickly locked onto a Chaos Chi vortex. Then, together with the legendary experts from the Lord of Crimson Hell lineage, he threw the Eternal Shrine with thousands of legendary experts into the vortex. As the top legendary experts in the Eternal Shrine cried out in indignation, the vortex formed by the Chaos Chi quickly swept the Eternal Shrine into the depths of the Chaos Void. Next, unless they had a great opportunity to be rescued by a real Chaos life or creation life, or if they encountered another Chaos vortex that happened to bring them back to the chaotic universe of the Lord of Burning Blood, both of which had to happen within 100 years. Otherwise, what awaited them was definitely a dead end. The Eternal Shrine is settled just like that. Looking at the huge shrine that was swept away by the Chaos Chi into the depths of the Chaos Void, the legendary experts from the Lord of Crimson Hell lineage who had been fighting against the Eternal Shrine for countless years sighed with emotion. They felt that it was unreal. Alright, the Eternal Shrine is just the beginning. Next, there's still the universe will of this chaotic universe and the legendary experts from the Shrine of Sacrificial Blood waiting for us to deal with, Xing Hui said. The universe will only acted on instinct, so it wasn't difficult to deal with it if it was targeted. As for the Shrine of Sacrificial Blood, there were only about 400 legendary experts, so it would only be a matter of time before they were dealt with. It could be said that after staying in the chaotic universe of the Lord of Burning Blood for so many years, Xing Hui was finally reaping the rewards. There is no cultivation, no energy, no true chi, no magic. Except for the primitive world, warriors can only rely on their own strength. The plot of the novel is also very simple. There is no ambiguity, no pretense, and no deliberate description of gratitude and hatred. It is a pure novel that describes a warrior's pursuit of transcendence and the sublimation of life. Chapter 957. Lord and Elders, I've just received news that the Sacrificial Blood Temple has occupied nearly 2/3 of the territory of the Supreme God Realm. This is because we, the Crimson Hell, sensed the abnormality and immediately occupied the area around the Eternal Shrine. Otherwise, the entire Supreme God realm would have fallen into the hands of the Sacrificial Blood Temple. Not long after Qing Su and the others had returned to the Supreme God world, the legendary experts stationed there had already brought them this expected piece of bad news. Damn it! Not only did the Sacrificial Blood Temple retreat at the critical moment, they even seized the fruits of our victory and occupied the Supreme God realm in advance when we dealt a fatal blow to the Eternal Shrine. This is outrageous. What are we waiting for? Let's go to war. Let's go to war immediately and expel the Sacrificial Blood Temple. We, the Crimson Hell, have already overthrown the Eternal Shrine, let alone the Sacrificial Blood Temple. That's right, with Lord and E here, the Sacrificial Blood Temple is simply courting death. Many legendary elders who had just returned from the chaotic void were filled with righteous indignation. Lord and E, elders, while the Shrine of Sacrificial Blood is occupying the Supreme God world, they have also recruited the defeated legends of the Eternal Shrine. As a result, the number of legends on their side has risen to nearly 1,000, nearly 3 times more than us. In addition, they have pooled their resources to cultivate 3 legends who have recovered their battle strength. At present, their battle strength has reached the level of breaking through the limits of a legend. They no longer call themselves legends, but call themselves Holy Lords. Although these 3 Holy Lords are still a little weaker than Lord and E, but, according to the information we have gathered, if the 3 of them work together, they should be able to hold Lord and E back, the legendary elder who reported frowned. Holy Lords? Humph. A mere legend wants to be the Holy Lord. Even if they have recovered their corresponding cultivation, so what? There are only 3 of them. I don't believe they can do anything to Lord and E. Although they have nearly 1,000 people on their side, more than half of them have been defeated by us. As long as Lord and E shows up and shows his invincibility, he can easily defeat them. I naturally believe in Lord and E's strength. However, we cannot underestimate the strength of nearly 1,000 legends, especially as they gradually begin to grasp power that matches their level. Our advantage will continue to shrink. Therefore, I propose that we immediately launch a counterattack against the Shrine of Sacrificial Blood and destroy them in one fell swoop, establishing our Crimson Hell's dominance over this chaos verse. The elders spoke one after another. However, Qing Su glanced at everyone and waved his hand gently, calm down. The Sacrificial Blood Divine Hall is just a bunch of clowns. They're not worth mentioning. What we need to deal with right now is the will of the universe. In the end, the will of the universe was a self-operating mechanism left behind by the Lord of the Burning Blood. It was used to maintain the normal operation of the chaotic universe, and the Lord of the Burning Blood had never left behind a single avatar. In the beginning, Xing Hui didn't understand why the Lord of the Burning Blood didn't even have a decent avatar in his chaotic universe. However, after personally experiencing Immortal Emperor Vast Sea's tremendous transformation, he vaguely guessed the crux of the matter. Avatars also depended on what kind of avatar they were. If it was an avatar controlled by the consciousness of the main body, then it wouldn't be a problem. Even if it existed for tens of millions of years, it wouldn't affect the cultivator in any way. However, if the avatar existed independently, then it would inevitably form a self-consciousness over time. When that happened, the newly formed consciousness would devour the original consciousness and transform it into a unique life form. If that happened, the Lord of the Burning Blood would return from the immortal Tao civilization. Not only would his avatar betray him, but even his chaotic universe would fall into the enemy's hands. This was probably why top-tier existences such as creation and chaos lifeforms always guarded their chaotic universes and wouldn't rashly leave their chaotic universe. Although an independent avatar was far better at handling matters than an instinctive mechanism, the huge drawback still prevented the Lord of the Burning Blood from making such a dangerous choice, especially when he knew that he would be putting himself in danger. Under such circumstances, it would undoubtedly be much easier for Xing Hui to deal with the will of the universe. He had already thought of a way to deal with the will of the universe. He would use the Lord of the Burning Blood's power to turn the false into the real. If things went smoothly, the entire chaotic universe would be under his control. When that time came, he wouldn't have to fear a mere sacrificial blood shrine. The will of the universe? Lord An, the will of the universe is merely operating instinctively. The sacrificial blood shrine is currently our greatest enemy. Don't worry, I know what to do. Go and make preparations now. Sacrifice to the will of the universe and let it descend. Xing Hui said. The legendary elders all frowned. However, Qing Su had already established a startling reputation by defeating the Eternal Church during this period of time. Even though they were rather confused by his order, they still chose to follow it. Xing Hui once again explained some details to the legendary elders, then went to the Dark Tower, which was a temporary residence not far from the Eternal Shrine, and carefully studied the operation of the will of the universe. After a long time, Xing Hui had a sufficient understanding of the will of the universe in his heart before his gaze fell on the void sky ring where the Lord of the Burning Blood's original body was sealed. During this period of a few thousand years, the Blazing Blood Master had been completely calm, and he hadn't caused any great waves. It was as if he'd completely abandoned this world. This scene caused Chen Shi to be slightly surprised and bewildered. He was unable to figure out exactly what this terrifying existence at the fifth level of the chaotic realm was planning. But now, if he wanted to solve the problem of the will of the universe, he couldn't avoid the Lord of the Burning Blood. Moreover, he had originally planned to disguise the Lord of the Burning Blood's power to deceive the will of the universe and then transform the power of the will of the universe for his own use. Even if the Lord of the Burning Blood was plotting something, he had to test it out. I'd like to see what exactly you're preparing. Xing Hui's gaze paused on the Lord of the Burning Blood's body. In the next moment, a powerful consciousness entered the Lord of the Burning Blood's body. Then, his consciousness entered the blade and instantly slashed the Lord of the Burning Blood's body. However, when the sharp blade formed by his consciousness slashed into the Lord of the Burning Blood's body, he suddenly discovered that the Lord of the Burning Blood actually didn't put up any resistance. The Lord of the Burning Blood's original body was nowhere to be found. What was left in the void sky ring before Xing Hui was clearly just an empty shell. Where did the Lord of the Burning Blood's original body go? The void sky ring can even seal the incarnations of the Master of Gods and the Lord of Time. Although the Lord of the Burning Blood's original body is sealed by me, he's like an arrow at the end of its flight. His true combat strength isn't even comparable to an incarnation of the Master of Gods or the Master of Gods. How did he escape the void sky ring seal? Xing Hui's expression was somewhat unsightly. Ignoring the danger, his consciousness directly penetrated the Lord of the Burning Blood's body. His powerful consciousness penetrated every nook and cranny of the Lord of the Burning Blood's remains. As Qing Su probed with his soul sense, a tiny difference very soon appeared before his eyes. He could vaguely see extremely well-hidden inscriptions on the body that the Burning Blood Lord had already abandoned. The inscriptions seemed to be connected to one another, as if they formed a special formation. After muttering to himself for a while, Xing Hui quickly memorized these runes. When Xing Hui heard this, he could only wait patiently. In the following period of time, the White Knight Empire learned of Xing Hui's arrival. The legend-rank old ancestor specially brought a group of glorious sun-rank bigwigs to visit, but they were all rejected by Xing Hui. The people of the White Knight imperial family did not dare to offend, including the legend-rank expert, could only wait outside the courtyard where Xing Hui and immortal Emperor Songhai were, hoping to be of some help and get closer to each other. Time flew, and soon 3 years had passed. Finally, on a day 3 years later, the immortal Emperor Songhai gave Qing Su a rough answer. An even more powerful force is channeling power into this body. Its goal is to modify this body into a set of coordinates, or a set of coordinates for teleportation. According to the speed of change of these runes, this positioning coordinate or transmission coordinate should be completely formed in 200 to 300 years. At that time, the master of that force will be able to quickly come through this coordinate. You're tuning in to the Blissful Bookshelf YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.